Welcome to the latest episode of Platform. Today's guest is Scott Quinn. Not only is Quinny an exceptional rollerblader, in fact, he's one of my favourite Scottish skaters of all time. He is also a good friend. I've known him for almost a couple of decades now. Skated with him from when he was a tiny kid, when he was a teenager, right up until we were hanging out at Winterclash and we had breakfast together. So I've known him a long time. We've had a lot of experiences together. I actually filmed his wheel scene part back in 2012, I think it was, or 2013. And it was literally the first time I'd ever picked up a camera. So I butchered loads of the clips and we got Aunt Medina to try and salvage it as best as he could. And that turned into that section. Since that time, he's gone on to have a pro skate from Razors. He was also sponsored by Ground Control. On top of that, he was also in charge of the team at Razors and handled UK distribution. Then he moved to Copenhagen, fell in love, started a family, and continued working for Razors for quite some time, doing distribution there, I think. And then he got a job at Skatepro, where he worked there for several years. And recently, he's just struck out on his own, started his own shop called 8 Set. And throughout all that period, he's continued releasing sections. Even after he became a dad, he still had footage in David Sizemore's Fifth Floor, and then in David Sizemore's latest video, Spokes. He also had a section out last year, filmed and edited by Carson Boyson, called Seasons, which was released by Themskates. So he's been a busy guy. Quinny's released a bunch of amazing sections over the years. He's got an insight into how the industry works, both as a skater and someone working for the companies. And he's now currently living in one of the trendiest cities in Europe. So there's a lot to talk about. His new business venture as well. I'm really excited to speak to him again because since he's been living in Denmark and I'm here in Scotland and we've both got families, we don't catch up as much as I'd like to. Before that though, just want to thank my Patreon supporters. They are listed on the screen now. If you want to join the Patreon, you can do so for as little as £3 a month. I'd appreciate the support. And we've also got new t-shirts out, which you can see on the screen now as well. Pick one of those up. It's free postage in the UK and £5 if you order internationally. Before I begin interrogating Quinny though, cue the music. The platform. The platform. The platform. The platform. There we go.
Wow.
Also, Zoom's doing a weird thing. Is yours like on top of each other instead of side by side?
Yeah, and it's all like squashed as well.
Yeah, it's never done that before. That's new. Okay.
It's bizarre.
I'll figure it out next time.
So how does it work? Are we doing do we warm up or are we going straight into it? Or?
I don't. No one gets to warm up. So many people have asked that. They're like, has it started? Are we on? We're never not on.
Fuck, man. I wanted to clean up, and have a glass of wine and all that. And did you bring your wine? I thought we had organised or arranged before we were going to have a little.
It's Tuesday night. I'm on water. We did not arrange before. The only person that's tried to coerce me.
The first thing we mentioned, we were kind of joking, saying we could have a little wine night.
Oh yeah, no, it was we could just get drunk and just stare into each other's eyes all night. Yeah.
Nah, I don't recall that part of the conversation. But
the only other person who's tried to convince me to get drunk on this is Elliot Stevens. He was like, when we did the podcast, it was like, I'm gonna say it was like 9, 10 in the morning in Canada, and I was like, and he was just like having a casual few beers, and I was like, it's a weekday in the morning. and he had about 3 or 4, and he was like, you're not having a beer with me? And I was like, no, I'm not.
Oh man. all I've done all day is taxes pretty much, so I'm pretty I could do with a bottle right now.
That does not sound like fun.
That's why I was like a few minutes late. I was like so close to finishing it, and there was a couple of invoices that I just couldn't find, and so that was fun. Yeah.
No, can you not use one of those like app things? No.
Yeah, I have that. That's what I was just filling in all that stuff for the accountant tomorrow.
Right.
And I just, for whatever reason, I couldn't find a couple of invoices. Searching all kinds of every possible email, you name it,
Oh God.
apps, blah blah blah. But yeah,
Right.
anyway, it'll be all right.
Fair enough. So I just realized like when you said, "Oh yeah, I'm ready to do this now," I realized we've known each other for almost 20 years.
Wow.
The first time we skated together, you were in like your wee like super massive sweatpants that were probably a size large because you're tiny, and you were skating in Salomons, and it was in like Glasgow city centre. And I think I was still in uni. I think I'd just come down to Glasgow for the weekend from Aberdeen, and I remember that being the first time, and that's definitely almost 20 years ago now.
Damn, that wasn't when okay, I was gonna say, was that when you were doing the Savannahs on? Maybe you did the Savannah both ways,
I
the
think
train station.
I think that was after I moved back.
That was after, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I
I was
think that
just
was
thinking
like a few years later.
when he was filming.
Yeah.
Man, that's way back. That was like, that must have been old Saturday sessions or whatever in
I think it was
Glasgow.
like after work, and I'm pretty
Okay.
sure it was either 16. That was either 16 or 17 years ago. Yeah, that was.
That would have been like way back. That could have been 20.
Yeah.
Something insane. Because I was thinking about that the other day, that how the sessions used to be so well organized on a Saturday. Like everyone met at St Enoch at like 1 o'clock or something, or maybe even earlier, and that you didn't have to schedule anything. You just showed up there, and it was without a doubt there was going to be like 20 to 30 people skiing.
Yeah, yeah. And before that, it was just a
That never
business
happened,
center.
right?
Yeah.
It's like sitting on Instagram or Messenger for a couple of hours trying to figure out who's up for it.
Trying to rally the troops.
Yeah.
I don't know. We have a pretty solid Thursday night one now. Like everyone knows, if you go to unit at Thursday night, there's going to be people there, and you don't even have. Sometimes you don't even have to phone anyone. You can just show up, and it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
So
I mean, right now in wintertime we have the Monday night session, which starts off your week so rough because it starts at 9 till 12 at night time, and there's a bar.
The skate park's open till midnight.
It's like a session just for bladers.
Right.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah,
as in,
it's a late one. It's rough. Like Tuesday morning, it's always like, oh shit, like great start to the week, you know.
I mean, you don't really have to like deal with anyone face to face, so I guess you're all right. But I imagine the other guys, like Sizemore works, I would imagine, as part of a crew. And
man, like Sizemore actually came for the first time. First time this year, last night, because he's off work. When he's working, there's no way.
Yeah,
he's so busy, man, and his like some of his shifts are just insane. They're till ridiculous o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. We randomly kind of like, so we obviously had breakfast together on the, what was it, a Friday or the Saturday? What day was it?
Saturday.
Yeah. Because I had the final panel to do. Well, on the Sunday, really hungover, we went to a bagel place around the corner from the skate park, and then David came in, and like he was giving Dan all the chat about being, I don't know, like doing like lighting and stuff like that, and me and Elliot were just sitting there really hungover, like we have nothing to contribute to this conversation. We just sat there in silence and listened.
Yeah, man, David, he knows his shit. It's insane. Like when we were organizing we're trying to set up the booth before we went to Winterclash, we were like building it all together here. Like David comes with like the whole kit, you know, like ready to shine all kinds of lights and possible angles, and all kinds of crazy lights, including this one. Like, but yeah, he just like, he knows his shit, man. He's so good at it, and he's also like, he's very critique, you know, and everything he does. So he just like, you know what he's like it shines both ways, like with the skating to how his work life is. He's just like, he's just good at stuff.
Okay. I mean, like, he does just seem like one of those guys that whatever he gets into, he's just gonna like dedicate everything to try and like be as good at it as he possibly can.
Sure.
That reminds me, actually, I forgot, I never asked him when I had him in front of me. When Dom was on, Dom said that he's sitting on basically just this massive folder of footage that never went into fifth floor. and he doesn't think went into spokes either. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I never, I should have asked him what he was going to do with that or what it was for. But yeah, missed my chance.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I know there's definitely some stuff from spokes with fifth floor. Yeah, I'm sure there's like probably another Dom section sitting there. It wouldn't surprise me.
Oh no, Dom thought it was Sizemore footage. He thought David had like
Oh yeah,
purposely
actually,
kept a
definitely.
lot of himself out of it because he didn't have
Yeah,
that. Like he had footage in it, but he didn't have like a lot of footage in it.
yeah, there would for sure be. But also, man, like, you know, David's the filmer. We we assist David. He sets up everything for us, and we don't always get it right. So I'm sure, like, there's definitely times where he probably watch back his footage, and he's like, "Oh fuck, boys, come on."
Right. Okay.
But we try. We really try. But
Right.
he's just so good, you know. And his cameras also kind of like it's got character. This thing you could say. It's getting
That,
old. And some
that,
of the buttons
right.
aren't what they used to be, and the zoom's a little bit glitchy and stuff. Um, but yeah, like he's just like so good at filming, and you know when he's sometimes he'll hand the camera over. Yeah, so I'm sure maybe it's to do with that, but I'm sure there's also just he'll balance the whole thing out to make sure it seems like more of a session.
Right.
So yeah, if there's like too much of one person or whatever, he's also this hard on himself maybe. No,
Okay.
like
Right.
something that we would look at and think it's just incredible, and he maybe doesn't like how it flows or fits the video. You know.
I mean, he has done everything, so there is,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of footage going back pretty much 2 decades as well. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And he should be on this call right now. We've been sitting talking about David. Let's just bring him up.
that is true.
Yeah.
Also, I've
Join
tried to
in.
get. Oh God, when was it? Fifth floor? It might have been around fifth floor. I was like, oh, the video's coming out. You'll come on then. And he was being like really polite. And he was like, yeah, we'll just wait till the video's out. And then as soon as the video was out, I was like, now's the time. And then he just blanked me. And I waited a couple of weeks and then sent him another message. And all he wrote back was, sorry, man.
No,
And I was like, okay, understood. You're not into it. That's fair enough.
I've actually not seen David on any like
No,
podcast or anything.
I'm
It'd
sure
be a
Jump
great one.
Street will have asked him as well. But yeah, I'm quite surprised by
It'd be
that
a good one.
actually. But yeah. Um, so how was your first off? Can't believe neither of us placed at Winterclash. What's all that about?
Need to put skates on
I mean, that's a
to place it when I clash. I didn't put my skates on once.
no one said that was a requirement.
Apparently it is,
Rude.
unfortunately. Yeah.
All right, fair enough.
But
I'll let
yeah,
it go.
I really wish I did. I wanted to skate so bad this year, probably more than ever. It looked so fun. And
That's what I was going to ask. Yeah, what was
yeah,
it? Because I've done a trade show before at Winterclash, and it was not fun. It was really long hours, really boring, and I was like, wow, this is like, I think that's like, as a Winterclash experience, it's like the furthest from participating in it you can get. Like you're literally like, oh, I'm
yeah,
stuck in this room and all the action is literally happening there and I can
yeah,
hear it, but I
yeah,
can't be a part of it. You're like,
yeah.
this sucks. So what was it like running a shop for the first time at
Yeah, it was pretty hectic. Like also for my first run at it, I just didn't know what to expect. You know, I've been in the trade show previously, but even behind the Razors booth at sometimes, but never really like did too much. We just kind of hung out there for a bit. So yeah, to see like the constant flow of people, and you're just chatting the whole way, and you're just like, yeah, it was exhausting on one hand, but it was also like so fulfilling. It was so good. Like I loved it. But yeah, of course I missed out on like some things, but at the same time, like to get the first response from opening the shop and stuff was so cool, man. Like yeah, it was so nice to see people just showing like appreciation or just coming by saying hello. It was really cool.
also that like it was one of the most legit stands there. Like you clearly put in a lot of thought and effort into it because it had like proper stands. You had like a little like media booth that was playing an iPad. All the
Yeah,
skates were like displayed perfectly. Whose idea was that? Who came up with the design for that?
it was a bit of everything. I mean, and it all kind of happened organically, like along the way. Because like here at this space, there's they've got like a sign printing company, and like and you've got a bunch of artists, and you've got woodworkers and everything. And I've been thinking like for a while that okay, if when we're at Winterclash, like how are we going to show off products and blah blah. And I didn't want to just have just a table. I was thinking, okay, can I do something different with the space? And yeah, so the green board that was there, that was already sitting here in the workshop for like 3 years, and it was green. It was painted green for some other project, and the company didn't want it. So it even had the dowels and everything. Like they even had the dowels with the same size for the holes. The thing was already drilled out and everything. So that was a win-win.
Meant to be, yeah.
So the only thing we had to build then was the box, the white box at the bottom, which had a bit of storage, and that was like the stand for the thing. So that was great and all. And same with the sign, like the sign that was there, which is, yeah, that's from another company also. And one of the guys were just passing by one day and was like, do you want a sign? And then they printed that off for me in the same day. It was like, yeah, awesome, perfect, like
Nice.
perfect situation, like the things with here. And then the box was that's from Adidas showroom, because they do a bunch of work for Adidas, like when they launch a new shoe or something, or so they have like, yeah, that was like a previous pop-up shop, I guess.
Okay.
And we just filled in, because it was kind of like hollow, and we just filled it in and added a little backboard and made the iPad thing. And yeah, bit by bit, I just like got pretty lucky with
that's what I mean. It sounds like all this is just falling into your lap, and you're like,
it was ridiculous, yeah. And we didn't think to use the Adidas thing till like the last minute. I was looking at it and I was just like, can we, yeah. And it was actually sitting over there with like flowers on it and stuff, and I was just like, can I borrow this potentially? And then borrowing it then turned into, okay, let's fill it in. And then we ended up cutting it up and doing all kinds of stuff to it, and
nice,
painting it, and yeah.
Right. So you've obviously, I mean, we'll go back to the early, like years ago and like a little bit, but you've obviously been a sponsored skater, so you know what that element of it's like. You worked for Sunshine, you worked for Razors, doing like team management, doing distribution in the UK, like communicating with shops. Then when you moved to Copenhagen, you ended up working for Skatepro. So you know how hard it is to run a skate shop. Like you know the difficulties involved, yet you decided to start your own. Like, I mean, you should know better.
But yeah, I mean, at this point, I guess it was like this was like a window to just to give it my all and give it a try. I'd always wanted to do something of my own, and I never have until now, you know. And it's a great feeling. It is tough, and sometimes it's a lot of hours and a lot of energy, but it's also like, I mean, I get to look at skates all day, and that's great. And even like ship skates, or talk to people. I'm just talking to people all day about skating, and it's awesome. And yeah, of course, there's like the work behind it. Like at some point during like the years of working for these other companies, I've done this at some point. Like the small things, but it's like shipping or like some of the stuff on the website, blah blah blah. Like at some point, I've like played with these parts at some point through the years. So it's like little stepping stones to then, of course, just being like, okay, I'm just gonna like fire the trigger now and try it myself finally. And then you find out there's a whole bunch of other shit you don't have no idea about. And then,
yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Like, but it's been fine though. It's been fine. And like the space I'm in is so good, because it's all other like freelancers or like some small businesses. So that's been a big help, just with my random stupid questions I would have about starting a company in a foreign land.
Yeah, there's that as well. There's A, starting a business, then B, you're starting it in a country you did not grow up in, and you've not lived, like, you've lived there a few years now, but it's not that long. So like you don't understand.
I think it helps because then you're just so blind. You're just like, okay, I'm just going this direction. And yeah, I'll just pick up the pieces along the way. Like
right, okay.
I mean, that part sometimes is just I can understand like some of it, but yeah. Even like starting up a company in my own language would be, if it was home, it would still be other things I would need to figure out. So sometimes I'm sitting there on the screen with like the phone, and because some of these apps and stuff you use are like the government websites, so they don't translate well, or they just don't translate at all. So I'm sitting there with my phone sometimes, like on the screen, like translating it with my phone, and then sometimes it's just a bit of a nightmare. Calling up Carolina, like, what does this mean? Can you translate this for me? Blah blah blah. Yeah, so some things that should be easy take a long time, and yeah, the skate side of it's all fine. Like the way the shop works is fine. It's just some of the small details that can be a bit of a pain. But yeah,
all right.
it's getting there.
That sounds unnecessarily stressful, but all right. Did you speak to anyone before you started the shop? Like, obviously, I know you're like mates with Jake Healy and stuff like that, and you guys have
Yeah.
got a decent relationship. Did you give any of those guys a heads up, being like, "Oh, I'm thinking of doing this"?
Oh
Like,
fuck
can you?
no, no
No,
way.
no.
Actually, I mean, before, so when everything kind of went down with Skatepro, because then like the whole department was gone, all of a sudden I was like, okay, like what do I do? And I started just kind of like fishing around to see what was happening in the industry, or like, is there some way I can still somehow work here? And I didn't particularly like ask Jake directly or anyone for a job, and it was just more like, okay, what's happening? Like how's business? Like how's everything going? And the plan was that I would potentially start a brand of some sort, and then just continue working. And I got this space. I just pretty much hired a table, which was very lucky, which is also just around the corner from the apartment. I was like, okay, that's kind of the plan. I'll continue. I'll try and work freelance, and then maybe start a brand. And this could be a good opportunity. And then I was speaking with a few owners, like speaking with like Julio and a few other guys. It started to be a bit more like clear that a shop, there's like a good chance a shop could work here in Denmark or just in Copenhagen. It's a bit more specific to what we need, and it reflects like our industry, our kind of core industry and scene a bit clearer than what other shops do. And so yeah, from that step I started to play with that idea of having a shop, and then it just made so much sense just with what I've done previously with other companies.
So, what was the like when like try to word this? Like so when you worked for Skatepro, they just made everyone redundant in that department, or just like in the skate department, or was it like various
like,
extreme
my
sports?
department was marketing, so it was like,
Right.
yeah, I don't know exactly how many, maybe like 15 of us or something. I think in one day it was like something like 20 odds went, and then yeah, it was just a massive dip, and like everyone felt it. There's like other shops had the same situation, but like Skatepro was just, it's huge, you know. At that time I think there was like 300 of us working there.
I thought they would have been covered by, I mean, I might be just being really naive here, but obviously because they do all the other extreme sports as well, because you were saying they do like snow sports and stuff like that as well. Is that right?
Yeah, they do everything. And
So could they
the
not,
the
does it
issue
not
was
make,
the like post-COVID situation. Like
right,
they didn't have enough stock, and then all of a sudden they had too much stock, like way too much.
right.
And everyone had, because like all these orders were coming in through China, and no one could, like the manufacturers couldn't keep up with it. And then so there was all these like backlogs of products that, you know, that should have been paid for, and then they start to arrive by the container daily all of a sudden. And you know, these things cost money even just to have them sitting there, you know, like the
Yeah.
stock is just insane. And I think like there's a few of these shops, like other like snowboard shops, ski shops, that are just sitting in the same situation.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts when you think there was that period where skate shops didn't have any skates. They were just selling out so quickly. Like literally a pre-order would go up and the skate was sold out, and you're like, this is
Yeah.
mental.
Yeah.
And then like you've got various shops moved to bigger premises to like basically account for all the stuff that they're having to keep hold of. And then all of a sudden the sales slow down, but they've still got all the stuff. And you're like,
Yeah.
well, that's an equally scary predicament to be in. Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. But yeah, I think like, yeah, the big shops were probably like really starting to prepare as well, and like starting to really bulk up their orders. And yeah, the bigger you are, the harder you fall, you know.
So you're just hiding in the corner waiting for your opportunity. You're like, I'm gonna get you guys.
To start a shop when all the sales are down, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's as idiotic as trying to start a skate magazine when no skate brands have any advertising budget.
Yeah, and there's a thing called the internet when you can just jump on there and see everything. And
this is true. This is true. So yeah,
but that was good, man. Yeah, the little paper was nice. It was pretty sweet.
your cute little newspaper thing that you did,
Yeah,
that was really
I used to
adorable.
deliver those when I was like 13, you know.
I put you in that cute little newspaper. Behave.
Yeah, he did. I was like, I was buzzed on. That was awesome. I was so hyped on
it. So why decide to call it 8-set?
Yeah, a few different variants reasons, but like it took me so long to find a name. That was like the longest and hardest thing, to find the name. and then even begin to start thinking about logos and branding and anything like that. And I thought about using 8 somehow, some way, if it was going to, yeah. I was like, every name that came up, I'd look through every possible way of like language and then Latin versions and you name it, trying to figure out how can we use it. And I gave up on 8 like pretty quickly. I was like, okay, it just sounds whack. I couldn't use it, or couldn't find a way to make it make sense. And it was David Sizemore that came up with 8 set. The first, he was like, what about 8 set? And so I wrote that one down and then gave it some time. And over the time, that was like the one that just didn't suck to us over time. Because sometimes you kind of look back on a name and you're like, oh no, like what was I thinking? Like, my God, thank God I didn't call it Fifth Door. That was going to be one.
I don't relate to that at all. I don't at all regret what I called mine. Yeah.
Sorry. Feel seen, man, you know, it's
fucking stupid. I hated that from like 3 months in. I was like, oh, what you absolute moron. Yeah, but I'm stuck with it now.
We were like, I was almost set on Fifth Door because this is like the 5th door. And then like,
I feel like that's too close. It's too close. Yeah.
But that was also the point in some way. But I mentioned it to a couple of guys, like some of the German guys, and like they're like, 5th, like you're the only guys that say 5th, like don't say, no one else says th after a number. It's weird, you know. And then the language barriers and everything. Like, of course they would manage, but it's just like, okay, maybe not as universal as what it could be, but yeah, 8 set, of course, it resembles, of course, like the wheels to, and then also this like the familiar term of like skate an 8 set, or that was always like when I was younger, we would skate like if you could jump the 8 set, it was like oh, like the 8 set.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh,
okay,
shit,
yeah.
You fucking gapped the 8 set, and it's like, yeah, it was like and it was short, and I had the kind of like double punch, like, yeah, all within one, and keeping it small, and yeah. When it was the graphic guy beside me here that finalized the logo, and when he started to put it like on, originally it was just on a shape of a frame, like a square box within the bottom logo cut out, and he had 8 set in there, and it looked like clean enough and everything. We're like, okay, that's what we go with. But yeah, looking back on that, I'm also glad that we just went for the line in the end and kept it even more minimalistic and simple.
Yeah,
it was almost becoming like the Levi's, you know, almost like a Levi's tab in some way, how it has that shape.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
A little bit, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're saying is I need to rebrand. I need to hit up Sizemore and be like, David.
Yeah, if you want a new name, hit up Sizemore.
I need something better.
You come to Sean, who's beside me here, and he'll sort you out.
Because mine sucks. Yeah. So obviously you guys like stock quite specific brands. Like you've got them, you've got Mesmer, Sola. Is it like a special relationship you guys have with them, or like why is it like exclusively those? Because you don't stock a wide variety of brands, and that seems quite intentional.
Yeah, I mean, for the time being, the brands that we sell are kind of like a direct representation of what's happening here in Copenhagen, I guess. Like, so you've got Mesmer going on with Dom, and them, like a bunch of us are kind of like associated with them in some way, or Julio, and obviously Dead Wheels as well, the whole spokes thing going on. Sola has just been like a really close companion. Like he likes to come visit Copenhagen, and of course I just appreciate the product also. And then the Too Easy thing, like Too Easy is actually from Copenhagen originally.
Yep. I remember Greg saying it kind of like started there. Yeah.
So that was like, I guess it just felt like a safe little bubble to like start this thing and keep it kind of close knit and resembling what's going on here in Copenhagen, I guess. I'm not saying that I wouldn't stock more brands in future or anything. It was just right now, like starting small and getting things rolling, you know. And yeah, I'll definitely have plans to like have some more in the near future. It's also just like a cash flow thing as well. Like when you start, you could go nuts, you know, and like spread out and yeah. So right now, I guess it just feels safer. Also,
right.
So you mean, and the brands that I have, like I love them, you know, like it's brands that I really appreciate, and I feel like I can sell it like so honestly to people, to be like, you know, I believe in this product. Like, yeah. Please enjoy.
Here's me skating this product. Here's video evidence of me skating this product.
Yeah, here's Dom skating this product.
I'm not lying to you. Yeah. That was pretty funny when I saw you had Dom in the shop and he's like signing like boxes you're sending out to customers and stuff. That is like, obviously there's not that many young kids in rollerblading anymore. We're getting more, but like imagine when I was a young kid or when you were a young kid, like I don't know, like Randy Spizers just so happens to be in the shop and Randy Spice, not a good example because I couldn't have bought his skate. He didn't have one then. John Julio, for example. John Julio's in the shop and you buy John Julio's skate and then you get the box and John's wrote you like a personal little note. That's so cool if someone buys Dom's skate because they're like, they love him or they're a big fan of him. And then they're like, oh my God, there's like Dom's wrote like a stupid little like cartoon or something on this. This is amazing.
Yeah. It's wild, right? It's so wild. Yeah. It's so cool, man. And at an event like Winterclash as well, like the kid must already be absolutely buzzing, you know, like to witness all that and then to walk away with a pair of skates, like with the box. He's going to keep that box forever. You know, he was like, I'm going to frame it and put it on my wall. And like, it's so nice, man. That's so cool. Yeah, and he also like he came to he noticed the skates and came to the shop and like straight away he's like, man, I want the Dom Bruces. And I was also I was a little bit like, man, I mean the Mesmer booth's like right there, like all the guys. Dom's there too right now.
You're a terrible salesman. Terrible salesman. Don't direct
it was in the
customers
back
away.
of my mind a little bit. I mean, of course, I was like, I appreciate him come over, but I was just like, I mean, Dom's like right there right now. But yeah. Anyway, so he was he wanted to buy them and he was hyped. I think the ones he got also had like a black cuff on them, and he was like, oh yeah, this is what happened to want that pair.
Nice.
But yeah, that was really cool.
Plus, when David Sizemore's Pro Skate drops later this year, you'll be able to get David in and he can sign the boxes. And you know, because we both know David's getting a skate this year. That's I don't know that.
It's in like a couple of weeks. It's dropped. Bullshit.
Yeah, a couple of weeks.
I don't know shit.
I don't know anything either.
Actually, I don't know shit. I wish I did, but I
don't. So Andy Wagner's not been on the phone.
Next, and then David after.
Right, you then David. So Andy's not been on the phone and asked you to stock Razor skates when you're doing the exclusive distribution deal, no?
I just get like hate mail.
Right.
And then nothing, not at all.
So are you the only like shop exclusively stocking aggressive stuff there now? Because you said Skatepro aren't doing it as much. Is that right?
I mean, I think they are. They're just they're probably not like stocking everything like they would have at one point. Or
right.
There's another couple of shops. There's one called District 10, which used to be Skatepro, that's in the city.
Okay.
That's the one that like Malta, he works there.
I always just thought he worked at Skatepro. I thought he worked in a skate shop, but I couldn't figure out which one it was. Right, got you.
Yeah, so that's called District 10 now. And but that's also like a ski shop, pretty much in scooter shop, skateboard shop, the whole spiel, you know. And same with another one called Mills, which is in the city centre. And they have like some aggressive stuff from time to time. I think they have some Rosies but yeah, it's not they're not like on it the same way as you know, you wouldn't. I don't think I've ever bought anything from there. You don't think to go there to like if a skate drops, you know, you're not going to find it there. Like maybe like a year later or something when the prices get cut and they're just like, okay, we'll take some aggressive skates in or something. Or
no, that's fair.
But yeah, that was also like the kind of point of like the shop was hopefully to be a bit more like on the ball with what's going on in the industry and be able to stock all the new stuff and try and keep it current, you know.
Plus, it seems like there's a vibrant scene there. Like, I mean, the videos alone, there's so many people in it. And then when I think about the guys that are still active, like Carl Lindbergh, obviously Sizemore's living there, Dom's living there. You've got like all the local guys as well who just annoyingly all seem to be really good at skating. Like it seems like there's quite a healthy group. And then you have, well, before COVID anyway, you had Copenhagen Blade Days and stuff like that, and like the events that which were big events. Like a lot of people went to them, so it feels like there is a cultural hub for skating there. Yeah,
for sure. And even like, I mean, you see a lot of skaters in the videos that David puts out, but there's so many more. It's crazy, man. There's a like a huge scene, and there's a lot of like kind of little groups of friends that just maybe like skating now and then, you know, like not too much, but they still come out, you know, and you'll see them around. Like it's pretty cool. It's really nice to see. It's also funny. You're just like, I'll be sitting there with the kids, and then all of a sudden, like a few bladers show up and want to skate the rail. You're like, oh, okay. It's like I mean, it depends which area of the city you are, but there's there's a spot called like around Norbro. It's just like, yeah, very relaxed area of the city, I guess you could say, with like some skate parks, and that you got like Red Square, which is a whole yeah, pedestrian square, but it's been designed so you can skate it also. Like there's a lot of that actually going on in Copenhagen.
Right.
Like most of the schools even have a skate park in them. It seems it's just insane. They're so skate friendly. And it's also flat. It's flat as it gets, so it also helps. You know.
See, that's the winning ingredient. That's when it's like when we're obviously over in the Netherlands and we're like traveling through in the train, and I'm like, every bloody place we pass has got amazing psychopaths. You can see them. Like it's so flat. You're like, where are all the hills? In Scotland, it's nothing but bloody hills and terrible ground.
Trains are like roller coasters in Scotland.
And then you go to these countries and you're like, no wonder rollerblading's bigger here. Like it's ideal for it. Yeah.
I mean, even some of the cycle lanes have like a picture of a blader on, like a skater on them.
Yeah.
It's insane. Like down at the beach, you'll see like the skate strip, you know.
I noticed, where were we recently? Oh God, some Spanish island. And just everyone was rollerblading down the street. And I was like, this, if we just actually had flat ground, this might take off there as well. Like loads of people were doing it for exercise instead of running. Like you were seeing like big, like muscly, six-pack, ripped guys skating along the street as if it was like the 90s or something. Like it was mental.
There's definitely a lot of that. Like this recreational skating here is huge. Like families going out at the weekend and stuff in the summer, you'll see them constantly.
See,
and then
that's
they have
what you need.
The Friday night skate where it's just like thousands of people, literally thousands of people mobbing the city with like police escorted through the city. They do a big skate run.
I like it. Yeah. See, even you don't have to get them into like doing all that stuff, like jumping off stair sets or even doing hand drills and stuff. Like even if you just like if you're just messing about in like a square, or whatever, and doing like a grind and a curb, and then a kid sees that and is like, oh, sliding, that looks fun.
Yeah. Like
I want to learn how to do like a slide on a stair. And just get, even if it never progresses past that level, they're just skating around, I don't know, doing a 360 in the ground, learn how to do like a little sole or a front side and a step. Even if that's all you get them to, you can still have a lot of fun just doing that. Yeah,
for sure. Totally right. Yes. Yeah. Like the opportunity to like expose kids to blading here is pretty huge. Cause like you see a lot of them just like there are skate parks everywhere. And if you've got a pair of skates, you'll show up there and they'll have a little roll around, you know, with the family. Maybe one will be on a scooter, one will be on a pair of skates, and but yeah, the opportunity to then just witness someone like grinding, you know, because I'll never forget that the first time I saw someone grinding like in the flesh. It's like, what the fuck, you know?
Yeah.
Mind blown. Like I used to think it was fake when you watch someone like grind the rail. I was like, surely they have like ropes holding them up. Like, how did they get up there, you know? And to watch someone like this jump onto a rail, like a handrail, all of a sudden was just like, you know, how? Of course, it doesn't help when you're like 2 foot tall at the time. And
this is true. You were tiny. Well, you're not that tall now. So, who was the first person you saw do a grind then?
I don't know, but I saw them. The first time I ever saw someone grind a handrail like in the flesh was close to Queen's Park actually, but it was at the ASDA and it was the flat rail. Yeah, it could have been anyone. It could have been like Keir or something. I don't know. I didn't know who they were at the time.
Oh no, I just mean in general. Like, I mean, like the first time you ever saw anyone do like a grind or something like that made you go, "I want to do that." What they're doing, I want to do that.
I mean, I think by the time I saw it in the flesh, I was like a bit more aware of like, okay, this thing does exist. Okay. But to see
I wondered if that was your exposure to it, like seeing it in the flesh, or whether you saw it.
I'd seen some stuff on like it would have been X Games, I guess. Right. Probably like or something like that. But yeah, then to see it like in the flesh, it's like, wow, it's possible. It's kind of insane. Like in real life, not just on TV.
Yeah. Or yeah. I remember the first time I saw it in real life being like, it's a lot faster in real life. Like you see it on TV and it just looks normal and it doesn't look that scary. But then you see someone do it in front of you and you're like, whoa, they're going quite some speed. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's what's required.
Where did you see it the first time? Was it in Glasgow?
The first time I saw it was on TV. I can't remember. It was like Ness or X Games or something like that. But then I went down the promenade in the Drossen, and there was all these guys lining up with just a launch ramp, just jumping off the launch ramp into grass. But the grass was really dry and packed. So it was like, you might as well just be jumping onto concrete, and they were doing like front flips onto the grass. And I'm like,
yeah,
the same amount of danger is there. Like, just do it. And the same, just after I left, a guy broke his ankle on it, which was mental. But yeah, and it was friends from school, and they were all in like recreational skates, just doing it. It was like before any of them had bought aggro skate, and I was like, whoa, I've just seen this on TV, and now there's people in my town. And bear in mind, there's like 10,000 people living in Drawson, less than. And I was like, what are the odds there's an actual group of like 6 or 7 skaters? That is mental. And like half of them go to my school.
Yeah.
So I lied to them and told them I could skate, and then asked for a pair of skates for Christmas, and then showed up to the session. And as soon as I put on the skates, they knew I'd been talking utter shit.
Yeah.
I could not do anything. They were like, he's a lying little fucker. And then
I did that one too after summer holidays. I came back because during the summer holidays, someone took me to Glasgow for the first time, and I got to like see a session, and of course didn't skate once. I just watched and was just like terrified to do anything. And but when we came back, it was all skateboarders we hung out with, and I was like, yeah, I went skating in Glasgow, man. It was like incredible. Like, you know, even when to go to Glasgow is a big thing when you're living like in the sticks, you know, to go in by yourself, you know, like, I'm not even sure what age it was, if this was like 14 or something, or you know, but yeah, it was a big deal to go to Glasgow. And we came back, and I was like, oh yeah, I skated this rail. Just because I watched it, I was like, yeah, no problem. And we of course passed a rail like on the way there, and we're like, can you grind that? I was like, yeah, man, no problem. And I just lied to myself and grinded it and royaled it. The shittiest square, like shaky rail, like so horrible. Yeah, I just like tricked myself into doing it.
I feel like you got away with murder there,
because I was terrified. I mean, I could royale. You know, it was time to pop that cherry and go for it. But I just completely, I was like, yeah, it was such bullshit.
How long had you been skating by this point?
At least like a couple of years, like at that point.
Okay, right. So it wasn't
like I was always more into hockey, so I'd always had skates on. Like on my birthday, even though I was into hockey, we'd still go to the skate park with hockey skates, like with a hockey team, and the air skate park.
Okay.
The metal one.
The one on the hill.
Yeah, the one on the hill.
The skate park on a slope. It made no sense.
If it was the other way, it would have worked because you had the downhill and to hit the jump box. But yeah, we'd go there with like my hockey team on my birthday, like all hockey fucking clothes and everything, and then like once a year or something, because we were just so into hockey. But then like eventually, once I finally got aggressive skates, and it was like, okay, this took over. Totally.
Like the Mighty Ducks just mobbing a skate park. That's pretty funny.
Yeah, I think that's what we were going for. It was probably that vibe, you know.
Yeah. Let's hit up the shopping centre next. Let's try and get through the shopping centre.
Yeah,
that's so funny. So obviously, like not long. Well, actually, it would have been like a few years after we met. You ended up getting on Razors. I'm assuming that was through Chaz.
Yeah.
So how did that all come about?
Randomly, actually, Chaz, we were because I've been skating with him a little bit at this point, like going to unit sessions. I didn't really know him that well at the time. I still was just such a grom, you know, and hanging out with him and skating with him a little bit was just like awesome, you know, like you felt that you could just. I was just throwing anything, like in the session with Chaz, like he's doing the most insane like full cab free spins, blah blah. I was just like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna learn 360 soul tonight or whatever, or to try and like keep up with him in some way.
Yeah.
And I remember randomly one night he's like, "Do you want to stay at my place at the weekend?" And I was like, "Whoa, like what?" Chaz Sands, you asking me to stay at your place? Like, kind of blown away by it. And so anyway, like it was maybe the week after I ended up staying with him, and we were just filming. And of course, in the back of his mind, it was like to then show the new TM at the time. And then it kind of unfolded that the TM's coming, and he's coming with Stefan Horngacker, and they were going to have like a session, and they filmed a thing at Unit, and Doughty was there. I don't know if you remember that one. It was like 2007 or something.
I remember the trip because they went to the kink trail next to the canal, and I think like I can't remember like details, but then someone was suggesting going into the city to party, and Chaz was like dead against it, being like, nah. Yeah. Not doing that. It like made up some lame excuse that didn't make any sense. I remember because it was on like a Razors podcast thing. Razors used to do that.
Yeah, that was the one. That was the second one, because the first one was at Unit, and then there was another one that got taken down, like for whatever reason. I don't know if it was because of music, and then I never saw it again. Right. It's just gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's right.
Luckily it's gone because we're all drinking in there and whatever else. But yeah, yeah, that's how it came about. He
Okay.
threw it out there. They came, visited, said hello, and yeah,
And
I got
then,
interviewed at dinner that night.
right.
So how often do you skate, Scott? Like, that's kind of.
Who was asking you
I
that?
mean, it was like it was very laid back, I'm sure, but just at the time it was just like, whoa, like this is the team manager and asking me questions, like fucking hell.
Who was the
But yeah,
TM at the time?
it was Stu Game, like who of
Oh,
course
right.
is like a
Okay.
good friend
Yeah.
of mine. It was just I didn't know what to expect, or like, what does it mean? What do you mean the team manager's coming and we're gonna film together? Like, what the fuck, kind of thing.
And then I can't remember the order this is in, but I remember you moved down to Bristol, like briefly, lived there for a little bit, and then
Yeah,
you got a job with, like, was it TKC or Shiner or something?
yeah,
Or
TKC, yeah, that was
yeah.
so they were the distributor at the time for razors. Yeah,
And then you basically tried to get like a blade job then, but then and
yeah,
you worked for them for like a little while, and then for some reason,
yeah. It was yeah, not for long at all, but that was like right when the crunch came in like 2008. And yeah, sales dipped, and it was like same scenario, like the warehouse staff are gone, like in one day, like one swoop.
yeah,
Yeah, I actually haven't thought about that until now,
you
but
were
yeah,
like
there's a
you were
couple
like
of aggressive like
yeah.
firing situations we've been in. It's like,
You're like, I've literally just got my foot in the door, and
yeah,
now they're getting rid of everyone. Great, like
man,
this is
I was so bummed. I was kind of like, 'cause I literally like, I was like, fuck man, this changed my life to like come and like work here. It's some hope of like working with skating in some way.
also, wasn't that like the first time you'd moved away from home? Like, weren't you?
Yeah,
Didn't
yeah.
you went from your dad's house to like living in Bristol? Like that's a massive change.
Yeah, but I mean, at that point I'd spent a bit of time in Bristol with like at Stu's place, and we found a bunch for razors, and yeah, they seemed like I was just looking for something like a change, I guess,
Yeah,
or some kind of experience. And yeah, they offered he just kind of said, yeah, I could probably get a job at the warehouse like very randomly. Actually, the plan was to move to Bristol. That was sorry, not Bristol, Brighton.
right.
That was a thought, just to try something different and yeah, live abroad at that time. I
I
felt
mean,
like
it's as far away from small town Scotland as you can
that was
get in the
abroad back
UK.
then. That's what it
Yeah,
felt like.
I mean, it was definitely much more exotic weather.
Yeah,
Also, I wish some of those videos were still online. I just remembered there's another one that you did, and I think it was in Bristol that you filmed with the slack lines, and you're grinding the slack line
yeah,
and transferring to the handrail.
yeah. I don't know what they were going for there. That was like they were trying to like sponsor us kind of thing, or yeah.
Yeah, that was yeah.
It was actually pretty fun to skate those things though.
I'm
They
sure it
worked.
was. It was
Yeah,
wildly gimmicky though. But
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Yeah,
so right, you're going to correct me in the order of this because I can't remember. Did you go to America first and start? Yeah, no, you must have been living at Unit before that. You must have been living at Unit
no,
when you went to America for the first time, no?
no, no.
Right. So how did you get the chance to go to the States? Because obviously it's
It was
expensive as hell to go there.
it was my 21st birthday,
Right.
and so that was like a present from my mum, just to get a flight there.
Okay.
Um, and then Chaz had already planned to like he was wanting to like rent a spot in San Diego and just like stay in the one place for however long it was going to be, like a month or two. And yeah, I just kind of tagged along. And yeah,
So
that was
right.
it.
See, you didn't stay in the Razor's house. That was a different time.
No, this was like this is way before the Razor's house or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But everyone ended up staying at that place, and then apparently that's what Andy had started to think. Okay, maybe it's a good idea to get a house and then
The
to keep
epiphany.
everyone in one place.
So what was that like being in San Diego with Chaz, and then I'm assuming skating regularly with guys from the Razors Pro team or probably like other like
Yeah, it was insane. That was
people
wild.
you'd
And
seen in
everyone was
videos.
showing up like left, right, and center. This day to day, there was someone new, or like it's just like the nice. It's like, oh, there's Frankie. Like, oh, morning, Frankie. You want a cup of coffee? I'm gonna go skating in half an hour. Like it was crazy, and or we would come back home from the session, and like the there's a full crew that's on the stairs waiting for us, like Richard and Erod and all those guys. It was pretty funny.
That must have been kind of surreal, especially
Yeah,
considering yeah, I'm assuming, yeah, obviously like, your first time in the States and then just hanging about with all these you're like, oh, you guys exist in real life.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure. And like I think like Dre stayed with us that whole time as well. That was hilarious. Um, who else? Oh yeah, so and actually that same trip, that's when I met Fabio. Fabio stayed with us the whole time, and so did CJ.
Fabio
Uh,
Ennis, you mean?
yeah, and
Right.
CJ was there as well. And that was like right at the cusp of when CJ was just starting to like tear every contest apart, like really get back into blading again. That was when he came second at SDSF.
Okay, so like it couldn't have been that long after his first Dom West edit drop then. Remember the one he filmed in Sydney that just went
Yeah, but I think
viral as hell?
I wonder if that was even. I think this San Diego trip was before that
Okay.
because he was only. It seemed like he only just got back into blading again at this point.
Right.
But that was hilarious. That was so fun having those boys around.
I
And
mean,
yeah, Stefan Hornbeck was.
Drapo's a larger than life personality, so it must have been kind of
Yeah,
bizarre
yeah.
having him around all the time, just giving it all the.
Yeah, he was great, man. Yeah, he had he was such a good heart, So yeah, he was. Yeah, it was great fun. Everyone was there. Yeah, Murder would just show up as well and hang out, and it was kind of surreal. Just, yeah, but also Cato lived just over the water from us, so he would come over with a bunch of wood and just like build a fire on the beach and stuff, and all these random little nights. It was so nice, man. It was a
Right.
great experience.
Wonder why Chaz never decided to try and make a go of it and live there like permanently during that
I'm sure it
period.
was on his mind for sure. Yeah,
Right.
I'm sure. Yeah, at one point, I bet he was like, he would have jumped on it.
Okay. And then you fast forward a few years and then you're back there. And was that the Razor's House? There was a time you stayed in the Razor's House. Have
Yeah.
I made this up?
Um.
Because you were
So
filming for Children of the
the
Future.
second time I went actually was for. Oh yeah, so I won a ticket. That's what it was. I won a ticket at Slam Jam.
That's right. I
That's,
remember that.
yeah.
Yeah.
So then you get to go to AIL in Woodward. That was the prize.
Yeah. I remember it did like the scholarship thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that was when we stayed at Venice Beach. But yeah, so I was there for 2 weeks. And then on the way home, Andy wrote me saying like, I didn't realize you were still in the States. Like, do you want to just miss your flight and stay? And this was like when we're at the airport, like I'm checking in, and I was just like, oh, like what? and then Joey was there. He's like, yes, you are. You're doing it, man. Like, and I was just like, so I felt so like, shit, man. I've got so much to do back home as well. I had to go back and work at the time, and I was kind of like, oh fuck. Oh. So anyway, for whatever reason, I chickened out and went home, and they still flew me back 2 days later. So I sorted everything out, and yeah, it's like, and my girlfriend at the time as well. I was just kind of like, yeah, sorry, goodbye again. and it was literally, so yeah, he messaged me like in the evening, and it was to film for the Children of the Future video. That's what it was. So yeah, and it was like late at night, and I was with everyone in the skate park, and I got that message, and I was just like, holy shit, man! Like, okay, I just need to do it. Like, yeah, because I
Like,
don't even think he mentioned about like a video in the first message. He was just kind of like, do you want to stay? And I was just kind of like, oh, yes, I want to stay, but I don't really know what's going on. Or so anyway,
yeah.
went home, and then when I
Yeah.
found it was going to be for a video and everything, and there was like a whole crew meeting up at the Razor's house and blah blah blah. I was like, okay, I just need to do this.
That must have been both exciting and scary because you're like, oh, the owner of the brand is literally calling me. Like, how many other scenarios does that happen in?
Yeah.
But then you're like, oh shit, like it's not a done deal. Like I need to go there and deliver. Like I need,
yeah.
like I need
Yeah,
to
but
go
then
there.
like I had such a short time as well. It was yeah, it was crazy. But I think I think that like right then that was like the first introduction to even start to work with Andy or like speak to Andy or like kind of open that up. Because before that, anything that went on, this would have went through Chaz or there was always this guy Andy that owns a company, and I was just blind to it all, this whatever, tagged along.
Yeah, it's the first time you're actually like it doesn't feel like a foreign concept because you're not just dealing with like a middleman. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was cool. That was fun. Like who was there? Burston was there the whole time. That was pretty cool. That was really nice actually, because then I properly got to hang with Burston and like got to really get to know each other, and like from then on just been friends.
That's what I mean. Like he's been to visit you loads of times when
Yeah,
you lived
I'd say
at
like
uni.
since then, because we of course knew each other for years and just showing up at events and saying hello to each other. But then that was the first time like properly hanging out, because I think he only just got on razors at that point, and I don't even think I really saw him. You know, he went from USD, if you remember.
Yeah, I
And
remember that. Yeah,
yeah, so it was like right just just not long before that it happened. And then boom, like on as well when we were there, we walked into razors for the first time, like into the distribution and everything, and Alex had his skate sitting there waiting for him. That was pretty sick. That's pretty cool. Nice to like to witness that, like someone getting that kind of whole like walking into the office and like, whoa, this is Razor's Bum, and then you've got your fucking name on the skate like right there in front of you. That's pretty sick.
Yeah, that would have been an exciting thing to witness. Plus, kind of weird because everyone knew whose skate it was going to be, and I'm sure Alex did as well. And he must have been like, "This is amazing for me, but really awkward."
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure like some people were more. We were just, to be honest, just hyped for bursting. Like, okay, whatever. Like,
yeah,
that's pretty sick.
That was a weird So that was a weird project because it was meant to be a Razor's Am video, and then they had Tom, the one, obviously you guys, but Tom Coley-Sowry as well from Australia was meant to be in it. Well, he was in it briefly, and I was like, he's amazing. He is like so stylish. Love how he skates. And then the cast was actually it was a good cast of skaters, but the end product was like, the whole video just came off as really strange when it was finished and actually came out. And it felt like this thing that they just, like, you've got these great skaters. Eric Rodriguez had made a name for himself already, so everyone knew who he was, like, associated with the whole kind of Blader Gang thing. But then when it came out, it was like, oh, and there was a lot of hype and a lot of like advertising leading up to it. It was like advertised at the end of every Razors edit at that point. And then it came out and it was like, this looks like you guys made this in like a week. like everyone was skating kind of the same spots.
I think a whole chunk of footage got lost as well, actually.
Right.
Hard drive like either got lost or died or something.
Okay.
During the whole, and it was Philip Long that was filming it at the time. I don't know if you remember him.
I do, yeah.
So he filmed everything. Like, we never filmed with Erod once.
Right.
Not when I was there anyway. And then it was like, I don't know what happened with Philip, or I don't know why or whatever, but yeah. Then Erod took over. So I mean, I guess that's got to suck also, having to just handle a whole chunk of someone else's footage all of a sudden, and like half of it's missing, like all the double angles are gone, like all that kind of thing. Yeah.
Oh.
I remember like there's a lot of like bursting stuff that was just completely gone and never be seen.
Right. Yeah, I did not realize that. All right, because the same thing happened with the Shadow video. Brandon Negretti started it, then obviously got fed up with it for some reason, or fell out with Powerslide, and then it ended up being Paul John that finished it. And it was like, this looks entirely different to what everyone was expecting, because they expected a Brandon Negretti video, and then it wasn't. Didn't you say you stayed with Erod during that period though?
No.
You didn't stay at his house?
No. He stayed with us, like on the very first trip.
Right.
Maybe that's
okay. That must be what it is.
I think actually there might have been one night at the Razor's house that he was there. This so happened to be because they had these like parties. And
that's what I was going to ask. What was that like?
I actually on the one night when there was like a proper party, I was dead. I was toast, and I went and slept in the scooter house down the street.
In the what?
The scooter house. They had a scooter house at the same time.
Oh, right. Okay. Right.
Yeah. So Philip, like the filmer and a bunch of other guys were just like, they dropped off some people at the house. It was kicking off, we'd been skating all day, like until late at night. And then I only had like a couple of days left, and I wanted to keep skating the next day. And I was just at the car that we were in, we're like, yeah, we're just going to continue and just pass out in the scooter house. I was like, okay, right now that seems like a good idea to me. I'm just going to take that shit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you missed it. You missed out on that experience.
Maybe I missed out, or I escaped. I don't know.
You escaped. It could have been a narrow escape. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that is pretty nuts. So that means you've had a section in a Razors video and Chaz hasn't. Chaz never did. That's crazy, isn't it? Like he had a pro skate.
Crazy to think,
he almost had a second pro skate. He was pro the whole time you were on the team, even
for a long time.
Never featured in a single team video.
He was supposed to, like, I'm pretty sure he was supposed to have one.
He was.
Um,
I'm sure he was trying to get footage in. I think it was
yeah,
Game Theory, and then
Game Theory.
Brazil was
Yeah, he thought
apparently
his
being.
footage was like too old or something at the time. I remember
Yeah.
like they were all filming like through winter, and Chaz was he was down to film, of course, but he was like in Glasgow, and no one was sending him out there at that time to film. So
Plus, I
yeah,
suppose the footage
there was
would
like
look.
snow and everything. I mean, I actually remember
Yeah.
Chaz sending Andy a picture of like the snow on the ground. He's like, "What do you
Yeah.
want me to do, man?" He's like asking him if he's filming. He's like sent him the yeah,
Yeah. Plus, any footage you
yeah,
did get, it would be like winter in Scotland, where it's all grey and miserable and like horrible looking, and then you're trying to splice it with California footage of other, and they'll be like, "This looks like two different videos."
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
nuts.
it would have been weird actually. Yeah. But yeah, that's a funny thought that Chaz didn't have a races section. He had a lot
Yeah,
of sections, like over the years.
he put
Yeah.
out a lot of stuff. Yeah,
He had the ground control one actually. That was
the ground control. Yeah,
same people, same group of people that would have been in the races video pretty much almost.
true. The team that was always kind of weird. It was like a separate brand, but it felt like everyone who rode for Razors got hooked up with ground control. Like everyone who rode for Razors wore ground control t-shirts, and it's like, where does one end and one start? Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I was definitely one of those tag-alongs on the ground control team also.
why not get what you
for
can?
Razors, but go for ground control. I think that's how it went for a
Yeah,
lot of people.
exactly. So you mentioned Alex. Obviously, like Chaz got you on. Like, who were your other like favorite people that you like loved hanging about with? You're like, or that surprised you, and you were like, "Whoa, did not realize I'd get along with you so well." That's a pleasant.
Yeah, that's funny actually because there's a lot of that goes on because you just you all you see is like sections of people, and then when you really get to hang out and like live together for a month or something, like the bonds you create like through that are just like such a different scenario compared to the watching a section. But I think that happened a lot actually with different people. But around like that time, like the kind of early moment or early days or razors with man, there's so many names popping in my head. Like even like the UK team, like originally, like all the UK guys, like Andy Sperry, like all these dudes, Dan McLaren, like we all got on so well. And then like getting to skate with like Howie Bennett and these guys, that like Howie was incredible, and getting to hang out with him and like live together but like Burston, I'd probably say I was probably closest with Burston and Josh, definitely Josh.
Josh
We
Kowicki,
really vibed with Josh and we got on well. Because it was also a kind of moment where him and I were getting opportunities to travel a lot because we were just kind of letting it happen. We're like, okay, Andy, we're so free right now. Like, whatever's open, we'll take it. and of course he loved that. It was like he was more than cool with that. So whenever there was a flight available, he'd just like put us on it, and we were just getting to go everywhere. It was great.
Plus, I think a lot of that was being easy to work with because you get skaters that are either A, difficult, or B, just really unorganized and like will miss flights, or you'll send them on tour and they'll fuck around and not get footage or not compete or not even show up to contests and stuff like that. If you've got people that don't create a lot of static, don't get themselves into trouble, don't, like have conflict with other members of the team and just show up and just do what they're meant to do.
I mean, I'm also like, can you imagine with a team like Razors as well, and there was like so many people, and Andy's having to juggle all these guys, and it must be a nightmare, like booking flights and like trying to sort out like all these little children's issues sometimes.
You're like, this is not worth it.
But I used to like really try not to give Andy like the slightest bit of a hard time. I was just like so appreciative of anything, like a flight or whatever. I was just loving it because my situation at the time was we were living at unit. I didn't really have many worries at the time. Like accommodation was safe, 0 bills. Pretty much, I would go home and teach some kids, and the rest of it was just like, okay, Razors, like whatever you have to offer, I'm gonna jump on and like take this one.
It's interesting you mentioned Howie Bennett. I still think about him from time to time and be like, that was such an incredible opportunity to reinvent, like, because obviously they reinvented Razors in Shima's image, because Razors were going for like quite a few years and it wasn't really going anywhere. Like they weren't a competitor. Like they had like Marco Heinze and Rafael Sandoz and stuff like that in the 90s, and they also sponsored Josh Petty, but Josh Petty jumped ship pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then they got Shima, and it was like, reinvent the company, rocker brand, Shima's brand, get John Elliott, get Murda, da da da. And then it was, but then that kind of like petered out after, like, you know, obviously it changed that you had Argon and stuff like that. And that was that, like, it turned into like, he was the face of the brand.
Yeah.
But then after that ended, it was like Howie was the perfect chance to like reinvent the brand again and go, oh, we're going this direction now. We're going to lean right into like the kind of arty, weird, like ultra creative rollerblading. And they just let it pass. And I was like, they turned him pro, didn't give him a skate. It just kind of like, and he obviously got burned like, out and fed up.
I don't even know the full story, you know. I don't know if, because I also don't know what Howie's story was with kind of like fading away from skating, like as a whole. I don't know if it was because of any issues with that, or I don't know.
A couple of the guys have touched on it in podcasts, like a Wax Toaster podcast, basically saying, because there was like Cody Lampman and stuff like that were in that crew as well. And they just said that they were so perfectionist and so like wanted to create like the best section, that they were just killing themselves and like trying to make like the best stuff they could. And then when they made it, or like they'd send it to sponsors and stuff, just were like, oh, this isn't, we're like properly like putting ourselves through misery here to try and create something brilliant, and we're getting nothing in return. Like, I can imagine that being quite demoralizing.
But then, like, I mean, Cody's still putting out incredible stuff.
This is true. Like, this is true.
He's not getting in financially. Like, if he does, I'm sure it's not, you know, no one is really to a certain degree. I mean, like, I guess it's like the appreciation like shifts, right? Because then once you get a little bit older, you kind of like, man, this blading thing means like too much to us, you know. Hold on to it for dear life as long as we can, kind of thing. And like to even be able to physically pull off a section is like another like, oh, thank God, you know.
Yeah, it's still what I was talking to Cody about it at the weekend at Winterclash, and he was just like, just not, I'm not really happy with that section at all. He's like, and he was just like, I just feel like and you're like, what are you talking about? Like, yes, it's short, but you filmed, like, it looked like it was filmed, I don't know, in a week, a couple of weeks, whatever. I was like, you filmed it in New York. He was like, yeah, I get really beat up. New York was unkind to me. And I was like, and then I watched it again, and I was like, there's so much great stuff in this. You literally do a sunny day wall ride to sunny day on a wall rail. That is so like,
that was awesome. That was so sick.
Like, I don't think it's possible to comprehend how actually dangerous that trick is. Like if you mess up the first bit, you're getting worked. If you don't lock onto the wall rail properly, you're getting pitched onto the ground. It looks really clever. It's properly scary. Yeah,
man. Was that the one that he was like, was he sick on it or something? Or there was something?
I can't remember what he said. He just said there was like a couple of battles, and he didn't really go into too much detail. But then I spoke to Mike Torres the next night, and Mike was like, Mike was like, I was perfectly happy with the footage. He's like, I thought he did a brilliant job. He was like,
yeah, of course.
We keep having these discussions, and I was like, dude, he was apparently he was like trying to convince Cody that the stuff he'd got was good, and Cody just wasn't having it.
I mean, he's like, you can kind of see he's a perfectionist in his own way as well. Like, the stuff he's doing. Like when you hear him talking about his sections, when he was talking about the he already had the song fixed, and then he knew that the pud slide was going to like fit in perfectly at this point of the song. You know, he's obviously he knows what he wants.
You've got really sick. There's a brand of skater like that though that you can tell spends a lot of time thinking about how they want it presented. Like the feeling they want to like emit from it. They don't just go, oh, here's all my stuff, I'll leave it to you. I'll leave it to you to edit and pick a song. They're like, no, this is what I'm going for. And so
I mean, it shows, right? I mean, fuck, his sections are incredible. It's so good.
Yeah,
Cody's amazing, man. Such a nice dude as well. Definitely got a lot of appreciation for Cody, man.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Cody Lampman. Yeah, definitely. I suppose that leads on to the other weird thing. You lived in a skate park for like what, a decade? Close to a decade?
I think it could have been 7 years.
It was such a weird setup. Like, going to visit you there, and then you'd go through the back of the skate park, down this little hall, through all these just like essentially like storage rooms, and then the first room that you had that had a kind of like ensuite shower thing.
Man, that was luxury compared to the first room.
It was basically like an abandoned living room that you had a bed in. It was so weird.
Yeah.
If
Oh
people could
man,
see
like I mean,
photos of that,
shout out to Unit 23 and Chick and all those boys for allowing us to be there. We were so lucky, man. Like because originally Chris was there. Chris was staying there, from time to time on a couch, like find the couch, sleep, And it kind of felt like he was young as well, and it kind of felt like he was like begging us to stay at the weekends, like for the full weekend. Like
well,
he's
he
like, "Oh, come on."
lived Chris. So yeah, you're talking about Chris Kyle, the
Yeah,
BMXer. He lived like near the borders though, didn't he? So it's like a long way for him to travel to
yes, Stranraer. He was
Stranraer.
from
Yeah,
yeah, so it took him like a good couple hours, maybe a few hours to get there. And I'm from Chapelton, and then just getting the train and the bus was a pain in the ass. So it was like we ended up like staying there for the weekend a couple of times, but he would then just stay still the rest of the week himself. And then actually I was crashing at Chaz's a lot because he was in Cloudbank, so it was a little bit closer, which was awesome. Like his mum would like host us, and yeah, it was so nice. Um, just be able to take a 15-minute train or less to the skate
yeah,
park was like so like incredible for me. Like I used to have to wait. Like my buses were one every hour out of Chapelton,
nice.
and if you miss that bus, you're just like heartbroken. Which happened a lot. But yeah, so this to be able to be so close was really nice, and then I think I started to get to know Chris by staying at Chaz's a lot, and sometimes we would just go there late at night and be like, "Want to go see if we go and check on Chris, see if he's all right," kind of thing.
Didn't he used
And
to
we would then like,
rollerblade as well? I'm sure Chris told me he
yeah,
rollerbladed at
yeah,
one
yeah,
point. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, man. I've seen him like king grind the old long box on the flat bank and stuff.
Yeah.
Like he was crazy good. Um, yeah, so ended up just staying more and more and more and more, and then it came to a point where we were like sharing a pull out a pull out couch thing, like in the old, remember the old Chaz, it was Chaz's room at one point, like for the event there was like that big room when you first go through the back, there's like a big room.
I did it. Was that the one that had like the Red Bull bin thing in it? Was it that one?
Yeah, it was. I
Something
mean,
like that. Yeah,
it
I
became
remember.
a mess. Originally, it was pretty nice at one point. I had like some nice couches and stuff, and then it just it became like a storage room slash kind of just commune thing going on. So that's where we first started crashing. It was freezing cold, and like sleeping in there through the winter and stuff. It was insane. And then it was randomly one day we found the room, or the room was actually rented out that small. The first one you were talking about with the shower. And we heard the guy like, literally like leaving the room who was renting it and like unloading the stuff. We walked in there and we're like, holy shit, it's pretty nice in here. Like it's good. So then we put all the stuff in there. We even found some carpet, put carpet down, had the TV in there and everything. And then like Chick came back from his holiday and like looked in. He was just like, what the fuck? Like fully moved in. We're sitting there like tucked in watching TV. Yeah.
Also, that's so random. Did the guy like do like skate or skateboard or like BMX? Like, why was there just a random guy living in
No, it
the
was
skate
just like
park?
some storage. It was like some storage space because
Ah,
that
right,
like some
okay,
of the areas around the back, there was so much space, I guess. So he would just rent out some of these rooms for
right,
people for storage, or
okay,
maybe some of the other companies nearby, or it would have just been a bunch of junk in there probably or whatever. I don't know, but
yeah.
um, so yeah, and I guess that was the start of it. That was like the first like real little room, and then at the weekends, everyone would sleep in that room, like on the floor, like everywhere, in this tiny little box. Yeah. Um, and then long story short, there was ended up being way more rooms upstairs and
Yeah, because then you guys did the refurb and basically built like a dorm room, an extreme sports dorm room that had God knows like what 8 bedrooms or something like that.
I think I had 11 all in
Yeah,
all.
and it was
Yeah.
just this big
And
long corridor where like it was kind of like a university like halls of residence, but for extreme sports. It was
yeah,
it was so random, but yeah,
it
it
was
was
incredible. It was, I
yeah.
mean, going from the dungeons to then like up to like the Hilton, it felt like, it was
I mean, they
unreal.
did a good job. Like it,
Yeah, it was
yeah.
legit, man. It was better. It was nicer than my bedroom back home for sure. Like it was great.
Oh God, I wish people could have seen photos of what you stayed in originally, which is like a little kid's dream. Like, oh, I'm in the skate park, but it was proper
Oh
grotty.
yeah, it was, yeah,
To then
it was
being
tough.
in
It was rough for
being
sure.
in like the new like IKEA showroom bedroom, which was like
Yeah.
like bright
Upstairs with the
lights.
window
Yeah.
looking over, sipping my coffee in the morning. Yeah, it was such a
Oh,
transition. But that was so fun, man. Like I miss all those boys big time.
um,
That was hilarious times. Because it was also like everyone had their own little journey, like Chris was really taking off with BMX and everything, and I was really into blading and would start to travel and go away, come back, and Jason Phelan was there doing his own thing with BMX, and
I still
there
see
was
him
skateboarders,
like
there
quite
was Ross
randomly,
and John,
and
and
it's it's so
so it
funny.
was really sick. It was such a funny little like group of like lost boys that kind of
Yeah,
lived together now and then.
but it was such a kind of unique thing. Like you always knew if you went to unit, there'd be people hanging out in the reception, like office didn't feel like an office. It felt like someone's living room. There'd be guys in there watching videos or listening to music or just hanging out. Or if it got to the weekend and it was late, they'd wait till everyone left and then they'd have like crack open a beer or something. And it didn't feel like escape. It felt like you were literally going to like just hang out with your mates. It didn't feel like you were going to a random business. It felt like you were going to like a community.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Yeah, but I definitely often wondered like how it looks from the outside looking in. You know, if you kind of turn up at that skate park for the first time and it's just like the office is just swarmed with people. You know.
But then I guess I would imagine as being as a parent now, but like, oh, that's nice. Like there's a community spirit about it. Like they're obviously looking out for you, and everyone knows each other. And you from that element, I'd be like, oh, that's comforting to know that it's like, you know, a friendly place.
Yeah.
But it probably would have looked a bit wild as well.
No, there was, but actually, like, because we had the lessons also in the Saturday Sunday mornings, and the parents like loved it, like the whole thing. They thought it was great. Thought it was hilarious. Just us like somehow pulling it together and then taking their children for a like a lesson. You know, they thought it was hilarious. This whole like, I guess there's a little part of them that just kind of wish that they could have. You know,
it's like, proper like, Peter Pan stuff.
Really having fun there, like,
yeah. But then I feel like it contributed to people having like I feel like it gave people kind of inaccurate like impression of what type of skater you were. I feel like for years people just thought you as a part skater because of you living at unit and didn't realize that you were a total street rat. But because your first like big edit was the one that Chaz made of you at unit, which ended up getting, I couldn't even find it. I went to look today. I don't even know if it's still on the Razor's channel. I had at one point I had like 80k or something that was meant like had like a lot of views.
Yeah, no, I think it actually got taken down a couple of times.
Right, but that was I think a lot of people, that was like because it was the first one you made that really like hit and had like a lot of traction. So I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, park rat," and it's like, nah, that like
full on. That was definitely like the first kind of section you would like took our time with and like kind of thought what to do instead of previously if we were like anything filmed in Glasgow would have just been, you know, where are we today?
Yeah,
let's film it, whatever. But yeah, that was a fun one to film for sure.
It was
cool.
Man, it was
also
that
like
was an amazing section.
It was the garden. It was our home.
That's
so you could like really like play with it, and you got to know like every transition so well. So it was nice.
Yeah, and then next one was the wheel scene one, wasn't it? Next one was the one we did.
Anything in between that would have been like, because Chaz and I had a couple edits after that we just kind of kept coming. I think Andy had like incentives for like videos, or he started to get into that realm, you know.
Well, you guys had a bunch of sections at unit because it got to the point where you were like, I'm not filming any more clips.
Yeah, I got so sick of it.
This is too much.
Sick of it at one point. Because it's also like, it's like, what else can you do now? You feel like you've done everything at the time.
Yeah.
You just,
Yeah, pretty much. And then it was the camera that I filmed your section on terribly. It was Chaz that sold me the camera. He was getting rid of his, and I was like, I've never had money to have a camera before. I now have a job. Let me buy that. I did not know what I was doing. When Ant saw that footage, obviously Ant Medina ended up editing the section. He was just like, what the fuck is this crap? Like, what? How am I meant to make this viewable?
I think he managed to cover up some of it pretty good.
He's like, the skating's good, but even when I look back on it now, I'm like, that fisheye is like 20 feet away. I don't know what.
Yeah, but I remember when I saw the but yeah, you've had your practice now. Like, don't worry, you picked up a bit, you know. I remember I saw the picture. The clip of the True Topsail got reposted. And I was actually like, shit, man, you must have been charging quite a bit behind also, like, because the timing of that one was actually pretty good. I thought that was probably the most better film clip.
Was some of them, yeah. Chris Smith commented on one of them. Actually, the Torque slide, Chris Smith was like, "You filmed that one good," and I was like, "Yeah, you don't want to see the other clips. You don't want to see." Some of them were horrendous. Actually, there was some Ant just flat out refused to use. He was like, "That's not going in," and he's like, "The trick's good," but he's like, "That's not.
Yeah,
I'm not putting my name to that."
Sorry, Dave.
That was. I mean, I'm the one that should be sorry. You were doing your job. I was not doing mine. I didn't even. Sometimes I'd turn on the camera and everything would be yellow, and I'm like, how do you make this go away? Knew nothing. Yeah, Jesus. And then obviously after that, the pro skate came, and then you went out to Texas and actually got to film properly with Aunt Medina. That must have been. Although he said you were like. He said you kind of struggled with it when you tried to go on like solo missions. He said you were fine if there was a group, but anytime you tried to film it on your own, you properly were like, "Nah, it's not happening."
Yeah. I just couldn't get into it. Like, I think I'm a little bit better at that nowadays, but at the time it was just like I always struggled to like film just for the clip or something and also, I mean, I felt at the time there was a little bit more pressure on my shoulders as well. Just with such a short period of time to then like make this thing, and I remember just being like exhausted also and struggling. So it helped when like if like Andrew Broom and like a couple of the boys would come out skating and just kind of then you can just watch and like feel the session, like skate for the session a bit more instead of like only just going for the clip. But nowadays that's like all we do is like if it's with David, it's like, okay, we're going to this spot and we're going to go and get this. And nowadays it feels a bit, because it's just a bit more for fun. And if you don't get it, then whatever.
Yeah.
Of course, we do have the crew sessions too. But even like if we go skating on a Saturday here, sometimes there's only one guy that actually skates really. The rest of us just hang out and like support.
Right. Okay.
Sometimes you get a few clips in a day, that's cool and all, but it's just like the support is always there here, which is pretty nice. Right. Someone's in the background rooting for you, or like David is like the most supportive videographer in the world. Like that guy would do anything to make the clip happen.
It's quite funny when you see just how excited he gets when you land a trick. Like when you do like is it topsail or is it back rail? What's the one you do at the end of seasons? Back rail, topsail, back rail. It's back rail, isn't it? Down the steps. Yeah. Hands around on the steps, and then he basically is just like so excited, like runs over and rugby tackles you, and you're like, yeah.
That was a bit of a mission, that one as well, because it was also starting to be like, can I even get away with this one? Because I just kept slipping out every time. So that one was just like lucky, like just got lucky with that one, and it was like, okay, we're done here.
Right. Okay.
No more. But yeah, sorry, like going back to Medina, he was amazing. It was to film with him for the first time. Like I already looked up to Medina and his videos, so it was pretty awesome to be there in Texas and film with him.
Plus, it came off like that section came off. Like I thought it was amazing. Yeah, it came off really well.
I can't stand it.
Really?
When I watch it back, I'm just like, come on, man! Like. It was as if like, okay, there's another obstacle, just jump off that, get the clip and keep it going. Like, there's another one, let's do another 180 and jump off that. And
there was a lot of jumping off stuff, yeah.
It was like, it became like, the last couple of days was like desperation to get it done. I'd sit in the back of the car with earphones on, this like, trying to get myself in the zone, show up at the spot and there's like, not talking, me like, okay, let's get this fucking done. And then, it was a bit of a struggle. It was also amazing, like being in Texas was sick.
Yeah, but when you know you've got a skate coming out and you're like, if I don't make a good. Plus, that was the era of you had to have a good promo with a skate. Now I feel like it's a little bit more lax, and some skates come out without even having promos. But like I feel like then it was like when the promo comes out, you kind of have to justify why you've been given a skate, and you have to be like, if I don't deliver,
that as well. Yeah,
I'm gonna have people and talking
like, no one knew
shit
who the
about
fuck
me.
I was in the States,
Yeah, because I remember when Alex's was coming out and like it was the Roar News era, and people were just leaving. Like you get like people leaving nice comments, being like, "Oh, amazing true topsoul or fish brain or whatever," and then some people will be like, "Who the hell's this guy? I've never even heard of him. Why is he getting a skate?" And like doing all the shit talking. You're like,
yeah, of course.
so
yeah, that was a funny time, huh? Like the shit talking. You must miss that, Dave.
No, because I like it when people put their name behind it. So
yeah, true.
I,
Yeah, okay.
I,
Yeah, the
I
road use
hate
thing is actually bullshit, right? Because then you can just be anonymous.
cowards in the internet. Anyone can hide behind a screen name and talk shit. If you're going to run your mouth, put your face behind it and say, yes, it's coming from me. Don't do it anonymously. I hate that stuff. No, that's
Fair
no.
play. So you're actually probably the only guy that's doing that now, honestly, with your face and name behind it.
Soon to be a dented face. Soon to be, yeah.
Yeah, that's not happened yet, has it? That's been
no. But then, well, actually, when I was making fun of Michael Witzman at the weekend, these mates were like, "You're just a dick," and I was like, "Yeah, you're right." So it never got to that level, but they just accepted you're really sarcastic. I was like, "Yes, I'm sorry." But he's turned pro and he's getting a wheel out of it, so he can't complain about being made fun of because it's working out for him. So he's doing all right.
So you're trying to bring him down a peg or two now that he's shooting off.
I was trying to before. I was telling him he wasn't going to turn pro, and then he was just laughing at my expense because I hadn't seen the Instagram post. So yeah, it backfired on me big time. So what prompted the decision to move to Copenhagen then? Because you've lived there for what? 8
It's going on
years
7
now?
years.
7 years, right?
Yeah. I just met Carolina instead. That was pretty much it.
Is she Danish? Is she from Copenhagen?
Yeah, she's Danish. Yeah, she's brought up here her whole life. Her parents are Polish.
Right. I was wondering what the Polish connection was. Right.
Yeah. But yeah, she's born and bred here. But I mean, of course, I liked Copenhagen, and I had a great trip here. Like that year was amazing in general. And it was just like I fell in love with the city and a woman at the same time.
Was that the year you filmed Cayenne Project, or did you move there before that?
No, that was before. Sorry, yeah, this was all after. But the Cayenne was a couple of years before that. So I've been to Copenhagen like a couple of times.
Right.
Prior to, it was like 2016 we met.
And you weren't tempted to be like, Carolina, do you want to come back to Scotland with me and live in?
No, I was like, please, can I stay here? I mean,
I've got this room at the skate park. It's really nice.
You can raise a family. Like it's a great place. You could raise a family there. Actually,
I mean, perfect playground.
I'm surprised it didn't happen.
Yeah,
but yeah. What
you're just picturing that now, aren't you?
I started to think,
what life could have been. You're like, shit, we could have literally started.
But anyway, long story short, Copenhagen's awesome. So I was going to say, I was kind of looking for somewhere to like stay, because around that time I was traveling a lot. I started to just, think, okay, but maybe like spend some time in Europe somewhere else, like, or where would it be? Because before that I was actually living in Germany for a little bit, on and off. We would just stay at the Sunshine Warehouse.
Yeah.
For like quite long periods at a time, actually. And I would also, because I was like the sales rep there, and would sometimes do some work in the warehouse with like orders and stuff and help out a little bit. So that actually also became a hub, like on the Europe side a little bit, and then like obviously Scotland was home at Unit 23 and everything, but we would use that warehouse a lot.
Isn't the warehouse for Sunshine like a kind of small town though? I can't imagine there's much happening there.
Yeah, not so much. It's on the outside of Nuremberg, but Nuremberg's a pretty nice city, definitely. Right. Super like medieval city. It's really cool, actually. Pretty cool place.
Okay.
But yeah, where the warehouse is outside the city, and there's nothing there besides a garage and a McDonald's, and that's it.
Great.
But yeah, but that was pretty cool. It was really nice to be able to use that, and it was like they had like a nice apartment upstairs from the warehouse. It's pretty awesome spot, actually.
Nice.
But yeah, I was looking for something else, to just experience like living permanently somewhere or semi-permanent. In Copenhagen was just like, this is too perfect of a scenario right now. And then like, yeah, with Carolina, like I literally, when I got here after Roskilde, I just crashed to her place, and then never left.
You've got a habit of doing that.
So there was never a crashing in places.
That's just your theme throughout life.
Shit,
I'm
man.
sleeping here now. I stay
Very
here.
like very traveler vibe, just like arriving and taking over there. Because I mean, I was still like going back for sales trips and doing like a bit of work in the UK, but then I would just come back here, and it was so cheap to fly back and forth and stuff. And so there was never like a moment of like, okay, let's move in together, or let's move to Copenhagen. Just and being here, like she's got her life. I had like everyone around me at the same time. Like that same year, Montre was also here for a period.
Richie was there as well, wasn't he? Richie Eisler was living there.
He has been before, yeah,
right.
And he has spent a lot of time here. But this around like the whole Roskilde thing, like times like that kind of like season, like the amount of people coming in and out is like amazing. So it was just so nice. Like, and Sizemore was here. It was like, yeah, I was really starting to just be like, this place is incredible, and it just works. And
because he was the first to move there, like first kind of like expat guy to move there, right?
I think so. I mean, there probably has been others, like at least for periods of time, but yeah.
No, I mean like permanently, like
and still here,
yeah. Because obviously Greg Preston's been there like intermittently over the years,
he's probably the first to like to stay. He had a full-time job here and everything. Like
I remember repairing coffee machines. Yeah. So strange.
Very strange.
Just completely out there. What are like the cultural differences you notice between there and Scotland that are like, oh, that's weird, or like that's funny, or I don't know, that's cool, or whatever? Like, because it must be a very different way of life there than it is here.
Different. It's totally different. Like Dom was talking about when he goes back home now, it's kind of like you sit back and kind of just like watch a little bit now when you go home to Scotland. It's like, whoa. Everything is just so different, like the whole culture and everything is just it really is. I feel like Copenhagen is just a bit more chill in general. It's just very calm. Even like work life, like the whole thing is just calm. People there's not much drama or anything. It just feels really, really easy going. You just need to come and experience it, see it for yourself.
You were mentioning like just everyone cutting about in bikes, like being very different from obviously being over here because the weather's horrendous most of the time, and the hills, and then just randomly like stopping. And you mentioned the other weekend, just you see just people having like a nice time in the park, and you're like, oh, I'm just going to stop here on the way home for a wee bit and just watch the world go by, and you're like, that seems quite idyllic.
It's so nice, pleasant. Like spring, summertime, just everyone just hangs around. It's really nice. That's the cool part about having like bike lanes like connecting the whole city. You can just any direction you feel like to head towards, you're going to find something to do or find something like entertaining at some point. It's really cool.
But isn't it really expensive to live there?
It isn't. It isn't. I mean, it kind of is. But if you're here and you're working here, you're probably okay. I mean, like the rent and everything can be expensive, but for us right now, we're pretty lucky. We have like low cost on everything actually right now.
Right.
Yeah, we're pretty like lucky we have this an apartment that's within like a kind of union thing, and there's a lot of those. Like if you're in a certain trade or something, or you can get like access to cheap rent or low rent.
All right.
But then the same apartment, same size next door to you pays like triple or something.
Right. Okay. Right.
But I think if you're coming like from another country, it can feel really expensive. But there's also like there's ways to get around it. If you come as a tourist, you're going to get sucked into the tourist trap for sure. There's a lot of that. This is like really, really nice areas to go for when you're visiting that you just don't go when you live here. But it's also so nice to take like when family come to visit. It's like we're always going to these locations like Newhound and stuff. They're just like beautiful, But if you want to buy a cup of coffee, it's like there goes your wallet.
Nice. That's what I was going to ask, because obviously you've got your dad and your sister still
Yeah.
in Scotland. Did they ever like put the pressure on you, being like you ever coming home? Like you ever like, or are they like, no, that's your new life now, enjoy it?
They have asked like if we ever would imagine going home.
You're like,
Right now, I definitely
no.
can't see it. Yeah, no. But they love visiting here. They love it. They love Copenhagen. They're all about it. Like my sister, she can almost like speak Danish now, just from deciding to pick it up because just for the kids and everything.
No way. That's
But yeah,
amazing.
she probably actually knows more Danish than I do, which is like reading wise.
Right.
Speaking not so much, but and listening because she doesn't get to hear it every day. But reading is sometimes like when we go to like restaurants and stuff, she could just like fire away through everything, and I'm just like, oh shit, starting to.
You're like, what's that? What is that?
Yeah,
What's in that?
like
What's in that
she's
dish?
on like what's it called, Duolingo? Like she's been on that like every day since Rosa was born or something. Like,
That's
yeah, it's
very
crazy.
cool. That's 10 out of 10 anti points for that.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. But now Rosa speaks English, so what was the point now? Nah, that's really. No, I'm joking. That's really cool. It's so nice.
You're like, you
Yeah.
put in all that effort, but it was fucking pointless. Well done.
Yeah, kind of. No, no, not at all. It was a really, really cool thing to do. My dad also tries to understand a little bit, and yeah. But yeah, I'm sure there's also that's the only kids in the family on both sides. So yeah, I'm sure they're a little bit like, oh, it'd be so nice to have them to stay at least for a little while in Scotland
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, since the whole COVID thing, we've still not been back, which sucks, of course. But
You've
yeah,
still not been back since they lift the restrictions from coronavirus. That's wow.
yeah,
That's
yeah. I
crazy.
know. It's been like 3 years now.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're gonna get in trouble. I'm telling you. That's
yeah, I know. Yeah, it sucks because there's a lot of like cousins and stuff that it'd be nice for the kids to meet, and yeah, we do plan to go, and we were supposed to be there for Christmas, but then I just opened the shop at that time, and it was like too early to leave it, and yeah, it was just too much going on.
that's fair enough.
Hopefully I can get a trip there soon.
Yeah. So, that right. I remember the conversation we had. You're probably not going to remember this, but so you skate for razors, you skate for ground control. You kind of had something going on with head and skate as well at some point, or like.
Yeah, it was because remember Roll Kings.
Yeah, and then that. Oh,
They literally like were turning into head-on skate at one
yeah.
point. That was the plan.
So you had all that going on, but during that period, you told me about another very famous skate shop that I'm not going to name that wanted to sponsor you, and you were like, and you're quite apprehensive about it. And you told me about a wheel brand that wanted to sponsor you and give you a pro wheel, and you turned them both down. And I've always kind of wondered about that because most people would like bite their hand off and go, "Oh, you want to give me a pro wheel? Cool, I'll take the pro wheel." But I remember you having like quite specific reasons for just not wanting a shop sponsor and not wanting a wheel sponsor.
Yeah, I think there was also like and it wasn't even necessarily like a full on like turn down or like there was just like some options like kind of floating around, you know. And it wasn't like I was like no way or anything. It was more just okay, let's just see how things go. Because with razors, the whole thing was with razors, right? It was kind of like I just don't need anything. Like there was no point in like building up the sponsors, or I just didn't feel that necessary to like load up more sponsorship for maybe just some extra product or whatever. Or I felt like I had everything I needed, and I had all my travel I could possibly ask for. I didn't, yeah. Yeah, my exact reasons at the time, maybe I don't know.
But
Maybe I just
that's the
had certain
opposite
opinions.
of most other skaters would go, "Oh yeah, cool, I'll rack up the sponsors, I'll get the free product. It gives me more stuff to like, I don't know, sell off on the side to try and make some extra cash or whatever." But you were like, "Well, no, it just doesn't seem necessary. I just don't
Yeah, it
want it."
wasn't, and like yeah, it was really nice just to be able to anything that we had to do like sponsorship wise was just directed around razors, and then yeah, it wasn't like anyone was like, okay, we're going to pay you this, or it wasn't, it could have been fun to have like some extra like sponsors, but like all my friends, I guess, or the community around us with razors was just there. So, to then have responsibilities to start filming for other brands and stuff, it was almost like didn't really have the time or want to really. I don't know. It was just
that makes sense. Like not wanting to stretch yourself too thin.
yeah. It wasn't necessary, I guess. I had the little job going on with lessons, like teaching the kids in Unit 23, and then the extra little bits, little crumbs on top from razors and travel wise and everything. So I was very content.
So when did it transfer into from being the pro skater and having the skate and stuff like that to then starting to work on the other side of it? Because you started doing was it UK distribution or like UK shop accounts, or I'm not quite clear what you were.
Before that, I was a team manager. That's what it was at one point. This was when it was still with TKC, and then Sunshine took over the distribution from all the brands and they took like the scooter one and like AO scooters and I guess ground control, like everything just became from Sunshine Europe. So from then on I was I was the UK manager, but also then I got off from the sales rep job. So I was still skating. It was actually right when the skate came out.
Yeah.
Like my pro skate came out, which is funny because I would get more royalties or more what's the word, commission for if I sold the skate compared to the royalties,
compared to like being the incentives for being a rider. Yeah
it's kind of funny. So it was like I'd be better off like selling the skate to a shop than even like trying to but yeah, anyway, it was the funny thing. So the right when I got that job, I was going around to the shops with my skate as well. It's kind of, it helped a little bit to shops that had no idea who I was. I was the new guy then, like the new guy that's coming from a German distributor that no one heard of to these like scooter shops and like skate shops and everything, and because there was like such a vast majority of shops in the UK. It's insane. There's so many.
Yeah.
A lot of like BMX shops that would maybe just stock like a few scooters and like the odd Genesis Junior or something, and that kind of thing going on. So we would visit all of them. And
that's kind of crazy that you're like they're like they're like, who the hell are you? And you're like, oh, I'm the guy in the box.
Exactly. It's like it kind of was. It was kind of like I was like, no, I'm legit. Like this is real. We're not fake. It took some time to get it off the ground, but that job eventually was great. It was an awesome job.
What was that like working on the other side and seeing it from that perspective? Like, did it give you like a different understanding in terms of, because obviously before you're the skater, and I assume there's certain decisions that you're like, I don't understand why this is happening, or I don't understand why we can't get this or that. And then when you start working on that side, did it give you like more appreciation for like the company's side of things? Or
I was from when I first got on razors, I was so curious and I was asking like a million questions to Chaz like all the time about that kind of stuff. But when I started working for TKC, that was like the first introduction to like, because that's a pretty big distributor, and because they had like coffee machines, like coffee presses, like AeroPress, like all these things, and then along with like skateboard and skiing and everything. So that was like a vast business, like to see that kind of like lifestyle change. Then okay, this is like the business behind it all. I guess I was introduced to that pretty early on, and I was living with Stu, like the team manager at the time. So I would hear everything about what's going on in the industry, or so it wasn't a moment when it was like, okay, holy shit, this is like not at all what I expected or something, or I was like slowly but surely getting fed into that,
But there must have been other stuff that you weren't aware of that when you actually started like doing that job, you were like, oh crap, like I had no idea. Like, I don't know, in terms of like you're like, oh, didn't realize that's how sales were going, or I didn't realize that's how many units we were shifting, or like.
Yeah, for sure. I guess I think when I first saw the Sunshine Europe warehouse for the first time, It's like really impressed, because to see it like that was only Sunshine products. I was pretty impressed to see the size of it, because before that everything was all mixed together with like rollerblade. At TKC it was rollerblade and razors and
Yeah.
blah blah blah. So to see like to that operate as if like this is Europe right in front of you,
Okay.
for like Sunshine was pretty cool. But I had like I guess I would have had like a rough idea of numbers and stuff, because when the skate came out as well, like, you know, you knew how many models were made and that kind of thing. And
How many models were made? How many units were made of your skate?
I think it was 2000.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's pretty standard. I think it starts at that, or maybe 1.5. I think it's
when I speak to most people, it's generally around 1. Yeah, but then I guess different
I think like, I mean, at one point for sure the minimum order was like 1.5 to 2 or something. I'm pretty sure it was always around that. Like you had to, minimum.
Right.
But yeah.
So when you started like basically trying to sell to shops, were you like, God, this is hard, or like you're like, whoa, I didn't actually realize how many of these we're managing to get rid of. Like this is more than I expected, or like which way did it tip?
But the chunks, like, because I was at Sunshine in Europe at the time when like all the orders were going out, and I saw like the like Grindhouse, for example, like shipping out their order and all that kind of thing. Like they were taking like big chunks at a time. So it kind of, you get to see it firsthand, I guess. So it wasn't like and local bought a bunch. That was pretty much my job, was relying on local, actually. Is it getting loud, David? Should I move?
No, it's fine.
Okay, all right.
You're like,
sorry,
Jake.
I've got my hello there.
Hello.
Guest appearance.
You're like, Jake, please buy more of these. Like my job depends on it. If that'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, of course, I slipped him a couple notes under the table now and then, and a little subtle handshake with the money in hand.
So how long? I feel like you did that job for like quite a few years.
Yeah, it must have been like at least 4, 5.
Right.
Yeah.
And it still continued on until you moved to Copenhagen. So why did why did you decide? How did you end up being at Skatepro? Like, what did you leave,
Brexit.
or what? Brexit? What does that mean?
So it was because all that stuff was happening. Remember when it got announced? There was all this talk about what may happen. At that time, I just had.
I can hear you. Oh no, you've gone off. No, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's the disadvantage of having a shared community workspace, because if you do something like this, you just end up annoying everyone. They're like, and I know what you're like. You'll be like, I'm really self-conscious of the fact that I'm getting on everyone's nerves.
Yeah. I mean, they were fine. It was just more like, it was actually, and I couldn't also hear you at one point there. It was so much going on in the background. And then, a bunch of the other guys came from, there's another building here, and then they came in. So I was like, oh shit, I need to now move.
Right.
Anyway.
Where were you? Oh yeah, you were talking about you're working for Razors, you living in Denmark, still trying to do it, coming back to the UK, and then Brexit happened.
So I was kind of all nervous because I was working from Germany, but within the UK and everything, and so I was just like, okay, I need to. And we had our first child, Rosa, at the time. So it started to just be like, okay, I need to just find something to attach myself to Denmark by this point, because I still wasn't official. At that, we were still European. We could be here at that time with our not so strong passports anymore. We used to be able to just roam freely, and so it just started to be a bit of a concern. I was like, okay, shit, what happens when Brexit hits? And I fished around a little bit, and Skatepro had already kind of like poked at me a little bit about maybe working together at some point. And I actually just went on their website and I saw there was like a social media job up for grabs. And I was like, okay, I'll see if there's something there. And yeah, got the job.
All right.
It worked. With some minor setbacks that where I had to be in Aarhus, which is 3 hours away. So we fully packed up and moved there, which was supposed to be for a year, or like we thought maybe a year. It was kind of like, okay, let's test this out. And it ended up, I was there for 3 years.
Okay. I was wondering why, because when you told me like you'd moved, I was like, that seems odd, right? Okay.
Yeah. But at the same time, it was a nice experience. And working for Skatepro was kind of crazy just because it was so vast, you know. It's like working for any other, like, I don't know, working for Amazon or something in some way, but then with a smaller, like within a community of people that kind of are into the same thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it was really, because there was also people from all over the world there working. It was pretty cool.
Okay.
Like when you go into they had a full like customer connections department, you know, which is just vast. And then you've got flags from every table, like people from Germany, Spain, Latvia, Russia, blah blah blah, all on the phones.
So what was that like working with, like, because obviously before you'd worked, your interactions are like with core rollerblading shops, or you're like liaising with shops, but you don't actually work for them. Like, what was it like working in a place with all these different extreme sports, like in terms of, I don't know, just like, did they even have an understanding, like the other guys were like, even know what rollerblading was, or like, because it's obviously been so off the radar for so long, like were the other guys like, I don't know, in the BMX, like the BMX guys, or like the skateboarding guys or snowboarding guys, were they just like what, even like, did you have to explain it, or like, are they like?
There was definitely a mix, like a big mix of that. Some people, like some of the guys working there and girls, like knew they either like skateboarded or something, they were into it in some way. And then there was others that were just like so happened to be like a web developer or something, you know, and just were attracted to it in some way or form. But going in there for the first time was just like, holy shit, man, this is insane. This was like kind of overwhelming to work in an office all of a sudden like that big.
Yeah,
it was kind of intimidating. But the boss I had, the marketing boss, was so cool, man. He was just like, anything I was bringing to the table was just like, it was like, oh, information about what's going on out there, you know, like, whoa,
right.
you've been to a skate park before, huh? Like, come over here and talk to me.
Oh, good. Like,
that was really cool.
So the guy you worked for, did he have like an extreme sports background, or was his more like a business?
He used to skateboard way back, but he was like a musician.
Right.
But this also he worked for like some big e-commerce companies like eBay and stuff, and he like set up like eBay Denmark at one point and all that kind of thing. And yeah, there was some big wigs in there for sure.
Okay.
But he was so cool, man. He was just so like open to like suggestions, and like it would listen. Even though I was technically like completely underqualified for the job for the standard of like what they were at, you know, like for the size of that business. But then the information that bringing to the table of like, you know, this is cool, this isn't, like whatever. Yeah, so he listened to me, and he kind of like took me under his wing, and then I got a good like run for a bit there with it. He kind of like moved me up a little bit, and I became like the marketing coordinator for everything at one point for like all the sports, which is kind of funny.
What do you feel like you learned like doing that job? Because I feel like that must be something where you pick up these, I don't know, strange skills, or just learn stuff that you're like, didn't know how to do that before. Yeah,
I mean, it was. I get so that was the time when I really understood e-commerce, I guess, and understand like how like a big web shop like that works. It's such a fucking massive engine, you know. Like when you go on skatepro.com, it's a website, you know, with a bunch of stuff on there. But when you see like the vast scale of what's necessary to get that thing running, you know, it's insane. And yeah, I learned a lot. Like, to think of something specific is kind of hard, but I think I also learned like certain forms of like disciplining myself on the 9 to 5, just being like, because that was the first time it was really like, okay, this is a job,
I was
even
going to
though
say
you're
that's
still
your first
in
like
the realm.
legit job where you're expected to show up at a certain time, like stay to a certain time.
Yeah,
Like everything else
I
has been
mean,
kind of just
yeah,
winging it.
yeah, it was a bit more like what would you call it, the word, like a freelancer, I guess. Prior to that, I mean, I had the odd job here and there, which never lasted that long, or I was never that interested. But yeah, this was very much like, drive to work, be there by 9, leave at 4 every day.
What was that like in terms of like that must have been a culture shock. You're like, crap, like people if I'm not here in time, people notice.
Yeah. But it was also about, and especially in the beginning, I was like really excited because it was fun, man. It was actually like a really fun job. Um, and to be like so hands on, like I'm just this new guy, and they just had a lot of faith, and it was really nice. It was cool
So
because I'm walking in there and I'm just like, oh my god, I'm kind of out of my depth here. This is a bit gnarly.
I mean,
Um,
how many people like get themselves jobs that are like, I do not have the qualifications for this, and then they just learn on the job and they just figure it out,
yeah,
and
but
they
of
could
course
end
it's
up being
like,
the perfect person for it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think like any one of us, if we were put in that position, we would figure it out because we've just been around the community like all our lives in some shape or form. You understand a little bit. I mean, I know you watch a lot of skateboarding, and um, it was just more like that job was all about knowing the environment, and there was a lot of people there that weren't so aware of the environment but good at their job. I think there's a balance of um. So like my job in the end of being like the kind of coordinator, which was a bit more like just leading people in the right direction, was like the
Okay,
perfect position for me. Because instead of
right.
being like, okay, you know, I'm not a graphic designer, I'm not a wherever else, like copywriter, like all these jobs that were around us, that was like coordinating. But yeah, it was great, man. It was fun, but I'm also glad that I'm out of that now.
Why?
Like that feel like this the whole the 9 to 5 for someone else got a little bit tiresome, just exhausting. I also like
Mm.
I really felt like I put my whole like a lot of energy into that job. I really did. I kind of went for it. It was like,
Right.
this is a chance to get some reasonable salary and like a good pay. You've got a newborn
Yeah.
right there, and it's kind of time to go. And yeah, then we had our second kid. So it's like
Yeah.
yeah, I learned a lot, and yeah, but I'm also like I kind of felt like, if I'm going to put myself into something like that again, then it's going to be for something of my own in some way.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. So you weren't like when they started making everyone redundant, you weren't like basically saying, is there a chance I could work in another department or do something else or just stay here?
And
No.
I would have been open in the beginning, but it was also one of the reasons I got kind of cut from it was we rented. So we lived in 3 houses when we were there. During 3 years, we moved every year, and
Right.
the on the last one, we decided to. Kelly was like, we're kind of getting ready to come back to Copenhagen, and this was all still at the end of COVID, so it was like it was possible for me to work from just a laptop in a cafe. Um, as that started to everything was opening up again, it was kind of like, okay, you're kind of expected to be back now. So I was traveling. Like once a week to Aarhus and staying the night there, and then coming back. And um, when the sales were dipping, it was kind of like they needed everyone there, like all hands on deck kind of thing.
Yeah.
I guess um, so yeah. Once that settled, like I did get offered, like I could have came back, but they wanted me to be in Aarhus. And
Yeah.
I was like at that point, it was just kind of like, well, we're already. It feels really, really good to be back in Copenhagen, and maybe it's time to just like to look for something else.
Plus commuting to work, like even just, yeah, I don't work in an office anymore either, but even just like the half an hour commute, I'm like, ugh, or like you get stuck in football traffic on the way back and you're like, I'm wasting my life commuting to and from work. This is soul destroying, but actually having to like travel
Yeah,
several hours, you'd be like, nah, this is not the life.
yeah. I mean, to be fair, though, I did kind of like it. There's parts of it I liked because it was like a moment to myself.
I was about to say you've got 2 kids. You're like, sweet. I can just like sleep.
Yeah, exactly. I got 1 night of sleep a week, and got to listen to like podcasts and stuff, and whatever. But it was actually really good. And I would always meet up with Jakob and Jakob Back. I don't know if you know Jakob Back.
I think
He's a really nice guy. I would meet up with him once a week, and we would go out for dinner and like have some beers and stuff. But he started Centrano distribution, so that, and that's Skatepro owns Centrano distribution.
Right.
It's it was all under the same kind of thing. But he started that as a university project, and then now it's like the biggest distribution in Europe, pretty much. They have everything. And he's left. He doesn't work there anymore. But it was really nice to this because he's got so much insight into the industry, and I'd worked in it for a bit as well, like in little pockets, and so kind of like I'd meet up with him and we would just kind of dream a little bit, like I was like, yeah, maybe a brand, like I don't know, something there. And he was always really supportive, and like it was pretty cool.
That is like,
so I think that
yeah, that's an amazing person to have, like someone to bounce those kind of ideas off, because they can be like, well, have you thought about this, or you really need to like look into this stuff before you do this. Because when I started mine, I thought I'd done enough market research. I had not. Like the market research I'd done, people were just lying to me, and I was just believing it. And like it sounds like you had like a reliable source that's given you like, here's what's worked for us, here's the pitfalls. Like
he's a great dude, man. He works for Stateside now in the UK.
Stateside, as in like the budget extreme sports brand. I didn't know they still made stuff. Do they still make like skates and stuff?
Yeah, they still make anarchy skates. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, they have a bunch of brands, skateboard, scooter, everything. Like yeah.
I knew these. I thought they still did the other ones. I just didn't know they still did.
Yeah,
skates.
It's them that make like wrecked helmets. They're pretty popular.
Right.
Like
okay,
REKD, and they also have like wrecked snow goggles and that kind of thing. Yeah,
is that
they're a really nice bunch.
Is that the brand Tom Willocks used to work for? Is it Tom Willocks? Was that his name in London?
Yeah, I know who you mean, but yeah, I think even like Ian Henry worked for Stateside at one point.
Yeah.
I was almost like maybe going to be working for them straight after. I did like a couple like tasks for them and stuff, and they're really nice guys. I was like considering it, but yeah, it was just not the time. This was the point where like all those guys were struggling,
right?
Like like everyone else, and when Skatepro started to struggle, everyone else was like, okay, shit, we're all going to end up struggling.
Yeah.
Right? And, so yeah. But yeah, so anyway, Jakob's like he's a great dude. I got to give a big like shout out to him in the beginning, because I was just like really nervous as well about all this, like to launch it, and just to have like number one, a Danish guy also helped, and someone that's worked in the industry, a lot. It's nice just to, I'd always have like some kind of small question or something that I had no idea about that he would answer in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, definitely. So so in the space of becoming a father, I'm assuming that's when Fifth Floor was getting made, because you didn't have much footage in it. You had like, I don't know, like 10 clips, less than 10 clips.
That was also when I was in Aarhus at that time.
Yeah.
So I was coming back now and then, and we would film a little bit, and
and then, but despite the fact you've got 2 kids, you still have managed to have a ton of clips and spokes and finish off a solo section, which even features your kids are in seasons, aren't they? Are both kids in them, or just one?
Yeah. Ellie's the one like crawling around, like pushing my skate and stuff. And
right, yeah. Like that's amazing. But like, so like you've been more productive in the last couple of years with 2 kids than you were in the previous years with just one.
Yeah, because I had no job. I just told you, man, we all get fired.
Yeah, this is true.
Like, I mean, of course, like the part of that is from just being back in Copenhagen, and that's why. Fortunately,
it's also kind of I sometimes like in my morbid thought process, because I remember John Bellino saying that when he released his VOD, it was at the start of lockdown, or like not far after like the first lockdown, and he made 10 grand. And then I remember like
Wow.
that was what you were working on was originally meant to be a VOD with Carson, because I remember
Yeah,
he would give me like little updates here and there. Can you imagine like you guys would have made, if you say you'd got all the footage, right? And then they announced lockdown and Carson's like, cool, can't work. I'm just going to edit this bad boy up. And then you put it out and everyone's so bored at their fucking mind that you make like 20 G's. And you're like, because Aunt Medina was saying as well, like he brought out Candy and that was in the second lockdown and they made, he said it was like over 10 grand. Like imagine that. And you're like, wow,
that's amazing.
And you've like obviously stopped your job and you're like, well, I've stopped my job and now I've just given myself a little bit of setup cash or a little bit of breathing room. Like it's mental to think of it, isn't it? Also,
why didn't you tell me this at the time,
also
David?
a little bit depressing. It wasn't finished then. It wasn't, because you finished it after lockdown, didn't you?
Yeah. It was like definitely after lockdown. But yeah, that's wild. It's fucking awesome that those guys had that opportunity to like launch something at that time. That's amazing.
When John told me during the podcast that's what you got, I was like, whoa. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, I'm not trying to be funny, but that was like your comeback section. It wasn't even like that wasn't you at full power.
That's
like
true.
The next two sections afterwards were nuts, but that first one was tame by your standards.
It's also, I mean,
but people just missed them.
Yeah, exactly. People missed them. I mean, I was so hyped to see that section. That was so good. Yeah.
Yes. John's one of my favorites of all time. When I heard he was like not just skating again, but filming, I was beyond excited. Yeah,
definitely. And he's just been like nothing but like on full rip since.
Yeah, he is like he's like all or nothing. I'm pretty sure he's broken at least 2 bones since being back.
Oh my god!
Like he is all or nothing. Yeah, fair play to the guy.
For sure.
So how did like the kind of, I don't know what you'd even call it, like relationship with them come? Because they've been hooking you up with skates, right? And obviously you put out the section on the Them channel. Or like what's the deal with them?
There's no how did it even come about actually? So yeah, with Skatepro had ordered some Themskates at one point and then kind of stopped, and then the white ones were coming, and I was like, guys, you need to get Themskates. Like this is like we need to be stocking that. Like when the John rings out, like it's just that has to be like a staple within your range of aggressive skates, without a doubt. If you're trying to be current and like you want to stock all the aggressive range, blah blah blah. So I was kind of in conversation with John a little bit when they were just coming, and we made like a nice landing page for them and all that kind of thing. Made a bit of a song and dance about them kind of coming in like properly. And then after that call, John was just kind of like he actually didn't know that that I wasn't skating razors at the time, and I just bought a pair of the grey 909s myself. I actually bought those from Head On because Skatepro didn't even stock them at the time.
Right.
And he was like, "Oh shit, man! Like I'll hook you up," kind of thing. So yeah, he sent me a pair of the white skates after that. And then, but after that, like he didn't need to send me anything. I was getting skates like really cheap from Skatepro. I just did it through them. So that then the next time we actually had like a connection was through the the next time we had a connection was London with Clark's. Because Matthew had said or asked me to come, and I was kind of like, man, I'm not like on them or anything. I just like to skate the skates. And so yeah, I spoke with John about it. I kind of like checked with John. I was like, dude, are you sure that is it okay? I come on this thing and like I'm there, because I had no idea I had no idea what was about to even happen really. I just got invited, and I kind of felt like a spare wheel a little bit. I was like what am I doing here? Anyway, so John saw the section that we were working on during that time, and Carson had already reached out to him previously about doing something, about maybe launching it, and John was just like, man, let's do it. Let's launch it on them YouTube. And that was it. It wasn't like a much else going on like prior to that or after. It was just like he's like, hell yeah, like we'll host it. He was down.
Yeah. It's
cool.
it's so crazy the way things like that like just work out, and you realize how small the world is. It's happened a few times recently. It obviously happened with the them and Clark's collaboration, and I was like, I can't believe, yeah, a guy I used to live with is now working with John Julio. That's just so, especially considering he never skated for years after he got really badly hurt. And then Cal, I don't know if you know Cal that does Pamulo. Cal Baker.
I do.
So yeah, he sent me a Dan McLaren section. So I obviously gave Dan McLaren an interview back in the print issue, like 2011, 12 or whatever. And Cal sent me under like a production thing, so I didn't know who the name was. And he was like, "Oh, I've got a section of Dan McLaren. Do you want it to go with the interview?" I was like, "Awesome." Didn't put two and two together. Obviously got to know Cal over the years. I've hung about with him at skate competitions past couple of times. And then just randomly sent me a link to the video like last week, being like, "Do you remember this?" And I was like, "Oh my God, that was you. That's mental. Like, we're now mates."
Yeah.
And before you were just this faceless person that sent me an edit.
Dude. So there's like, I remember that. I remember you talking about that previously. But I'm also only just realizing that it's Cal that does Pomelo.
Yeah.
Right now. And I saw him, I've known him for years, of course. He's such a nice dude.
He doesn't tell anyone. Like, if you don't know him, he doesn't tell you he does it.
But he wrote on Instagram, like through Pomelo Instagram, saying like, "Nice to see you at the weekend." And I've been thinking, what's it? Like, so now you've answered my question. Right. And I will happily respond to that message now.
Right.
That's funny. Fuck.
But
I remember you talking. But he filmed like all his stuff, dance stuff.
Yeah.
Dan McLaren. Yeah. I remember a scenario when I kind of got like stuck once upon a time down south in the early Razors days.